because we're heading into the end of the round anyway. But it does seem actually like it shifts at least one player down onto a suboptimal buy. They're going to have to work with a Spectre for this final round instead, so I'll correct myself. It does have that slight bit of impact. We'll see what it leads to, though, inside of the round itself, as the action's getting started now.
Well, as we know, Sean's not going to be able to take as aggressive of long-distance gunfights, especially if he doesn't have a Vandal, but you know what he will be able to do? Blast Pack right into sight and then get shot by Tens. That's what he can do. Blast Pack out for Tens to try and hold him back, as well as Paint Shells out as well. And no, it's going to be Nature actually that works his way up through 410 to take down Tens. Speaking of which, Shazam with the trade, Kusa with the trade as well. It's just back and forth across the board, and Sentinels finally getting something done here. It's all down to Mikael, who can't try and win this 1 versus 2. Zombs already has the cutoff, and he'll get it done. It's 7-5 in favor of the defense.
So, SEN definitely get themselves a solid half built up coming off that defensive side. 7 rounds in their favor. We can see Tens once again having that fantastic first round impact on the scoreboard too. I'm gonna look at some of the replays and hopefully get a few highlights from that, but it was a little bit more of a quiet push from him. Like I said, no crazy round defining plays, but keeping it consistent to make sure the team stays in controlling shape throughout the rest of it. Sean was really impressing me in the meanwhile on the other side of the coin for GENG. Some really good stuff coming out from his Raze. Obviously, we don't really talk much about that last round, but aside from that, a really impressive half from him, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both of them are just neck and neck at this moment. It seems like these rounds are just being decided by those little finite details, like the paint shell bouncing over the ice wall and taking out Sage and things like that. It's all up to those little minute things that are happening in between these two, and it's beautiful to see. What a showcase of the Valorant talent that we have on both of these rosters. And speaking of which, I'm going to be shifting gears here as Sentinels drop it into third. Start shaking things up. They're on offense now as they're looking for a B execute, at least for the time being.
Dapper drifting forward, checking out the main corridor here to make sure there's not going to be any tomfoolery from the members of GENG, especially considering this is Pistol. This is where you'd likely sometimes tend to see those players hiding in a hard-to-spot corner that an Aldrin might not always get. That's why he's keeping the top-down view of things. Kusta does see the action starting to boil out. He'll call for the rotate, but here's going to be the problem. Kusta, you can see those rotates are pretty far away, and he is, well, very much alone here on the site. So throws out all of his toxic utility to try to smoke this off, but ultimately we'll just have to wait for his teammates to rotate in. It'll be a full 5-on-5 post plant here, and Sentinels will have more than enough time to set themselves up. They will be cautious, though. Kyle is working his way in for a pinch, but he's very much being watched. However, this timing can work out so well. Kyle walks in, is going to be able to get the free shots on the Zombs, but Zombs wins it anyway. Nature and GMD, though, both pick up wins outside on the site itself, ultimately drifting this further into the favor of Sentinels. GMD has to be the hero here, but no, Sick denies the clutch, and instead, it's going to be another win for SEN.
Oh, that round's almost getting blasted open by Mikael there. So very close, but the classic giveth and the classic taketh away with that right click. It's not working out in his favor, and the frenzy, it's better inside of those close engagements. Either way, though, a beautiful round there, specifically for Sick, as he was able to bound back and forth out of that dark cover on the other side of yellow, and just what a position to play from him, keeping things locked up for the Sentinels, and it's going to push them into this next round. GENG obviously going to be on an eco here, so this one probably going to be pretty decisive.
This is already a big victory for Sentinels, being able to take control of that pistol with a 2-round lead at the start of it. Now a 3-round lead, of course, likely to evolve into a 4th. I say that, but GENG have already taken one of these second full saves off of SEN, so it's definitely not a guaranteed round for them as of yet. Will be very difficult, I'll be honest and say, to make this work. Such a light buy on Icebox of all maps, too. So many long angles here. The pistols usually fall out quite heavily. SEN realizing this actually brought like a light buy for some of their players. Was notably Sick, just saving what he had from the previous round, not making those additional investments. The rest of the team buying into it quite heavily, though, and that's already paying off. Zombs making quick work of the aggression that's coming over the barrier orb there. Still, he's able to sneak 1 kill. It'll matter for naught, though. Tens coming in, shuts down those final 2 players, and it's a 9th round up on the board, just like we said.
Man, Tens is running roughshot over this entire thing right now, and that's not even accounting for Dapper. I wouldn't even have been able to tell you that Dapper has 17 kills. He's just doing it idly. Yep. It's really been Tens that we've been seeing with these explosive entries and flanks as well, able to just really get inside of GENG's head and break down these strategies, making it nigh impossible to try and come back. But luckily enough for Gen G and the Gen G camp overall, they now have rifles, and with that, an opportunity to slow down Sentinels.
Dapper with a quick recon dart out just to make sure we don't see the aggression, but he is going to see it. Nature actually gets tagged by one of those. That may change up the playstyle for Sentinels even slightly here. Sean's also got a very aggressive push forward into B main too. He's going to be on the correct side of his opponent's 6 screens, so may be able to catch something with that if he goes unchecked. Likely we'll see that happen, though. For the most part, it seems like most of the aggression from Sentinels is going to work its way out onto the A side anyway. Even Gen G is starting to realize that Sean with such a forward position can tell way ahead of time that, guys, there's nothing here. So that call will be made well ahead of time, and we'll see the large majority of Gen G already in position, either in mid or ready to defend the A site at this point in the round.
Well, Gen G fully prepared here. Obviously, Sentinels are the slow-moving offense right now. They're going to get read out from that Owl drone. So much info coming from the defensive Owl drone there of Mikhail. Either way, though, now down to the Sentinels to try and get this execute to go off, and it starts off without a hit. Shazam getting one, but GMD finally with the refrag from Raptors. He's going to continue to be able to hold this down whilst Kusta works across in through Maze. He'll get yet another. Mikhail tags one up for a third in the Gen G camp. Now down to a 3v2. Dapper finally fighting fire with fire. He'll take 2 as well. It's a triple for him on the round, and it's all left up to Sean. Paint shell in hand, but chooses to keep it inside of his pocket anyways, and really, did it really matter at the end of the day? Dapper swings it. It's a quad for him, and wow, what rounds Sentinels have been able to link together.
Yeah, this is a massive boon for them. Like we talked about already, coming into the half with a strong lead off the defensive side of 7-5, and then being able to push that forward immediately with a pistol win, the follow-up when the first gun round goes their way. This is a desperate situation being set up for Gen G to come back from right now, but it's certainly not impossible. In fact, we've already seen something much greater than this transpire just on the previous map. Time to see if they can bring themselves together, though, and truly do it. Probably not necessarily on this round, since once again, it's just going to be light investments from the pistols for the most part. But after this, they can focus things up, and there's going to be a capability for them to come back.
Well, as of right now, not looking too good, at least for this round, as,
that was quick.
I'm just going to hold my words, John. I think that's the best way to do it. We're going to the next round, folks. Round 17, right around the corner as the Sentinels hit a flawless. And wow, what a convincing one it was. Across the board, Dapper actually ends up taking up the mantle of top frag on Sentinels away from Tens, who's had such an amazing game, but you can't say anything against Dapper right now. 21-7 up against Gen G. And remember, Icebox being Gen G's pick, as well as Sentinels picking our first map being Bind, so it looks like it's opposite day.
So let's see if Sentinels can really control the situation here. This is the last big round they have to get past, too. After this, it would be a force from Gen G with suboptimal guns across the board and probably a lack of utility, too. Going to be seeing Sentinels move into the B site relatively quickly. Pit goes down onto the ground very fast as well from Zom, so full B-side control already maintained by Sentinels. They didn't even have to kill a single player to get the job done here. Rest of Gen G is slowly swarming around the outskirts, but they have to be so cautious. There are members of Sentinels littered everywhere around this site, inside of the kitchen hallway, the kitchen itself, down towards Kite. We can see Shazam with a slight angle to counter out, rotates from Snowman. Not able to use it to the best of his own capability, though, as he only gets that little bit of damage onto Nature, but there we go. Then brings the kill back home to finish off Usta. Tens as well, finding Sean. Kill will be able to sneak his way back in, at least getting him on top of the spike, but that's just before he goes down to Zoms. Tens with the paint shells showing up again, finishes off Nature. And GMG just sitting on the outside of this pit. He doesn't even know how to approach this. It's so unfortunate. As eventually he'll get pushed out from the same angle he was just looking at. Zoms takes him out, and Sentinels go up onto map 4.
Well, if Sentinels' defenses looked good, their offenses look absolutely astounding. These guys are taking control so quick, especially on that B site. But the beauty of it is the pacing here for me, Blue. I mean, time and time again, they're able to shift things from Gen G and just keep them guessing. And that's, again, really what you want in a game like this. You try and get some people to pull some utility or do something drastic, and that's just going to forever be in your favor, one would say. So we'll see if the Sentinels are able to do so yet again here, as it looks like a full-blown official assault of the actual belt area. It's traded out. Nature will get 2, but they'll get 2 of their own, and it's going to be Gen G to try and retake A, as 2 of their members are still out towards 2.
Tens is going to launch himself with both blast packs right into the back of the site here. Take that control for himself. Paint Shell's also going down over towards screens to block off access from that department, and with a cloud burst from Shazam, it has given GENG the room they need to get their spike down safely onto the ground. Usta, though, starting to work his way back in through screens here, making things look a lot more promising for them. A clean kill against Shazam as well stops him from getting any more forward momentum. Tens is low. He can't fight in the open like this, and he'll go down expectedly. Kyle just going to be on the Dapper here now. He doesn't even have an angle onto the diffuser right now, and he's being overwhelmed by the GENG roster. They maintain. The defense holds on, although they've got a long, long road to recovery as GENG finally gets another round for themselves.
Such a scary round there for both of those teams. Opening it up that way on Belt from GENG. I mean, look at how they fly in here immediately with Nature as well as Sean. Nature with 2, but the trade back. And, well, saw the rest of that one broke down. GENG able to recoup as well as take over the site. And that's exactly what needed to happen. They needed to try and use that man advantage into their favor, or at least stack up and get those trades going on inside of that 3v3. Otherwise, things were going to be pretty risque, one could say, but still up and on to map point here. That'll push us down to that 3rd map if they're able to find it. Still a long road ahead for GENG, but hey, we've seen what they've done in the past.
So that immediate pop once again from GENG. Kusta, we bringing out the pit, pretty much forcing the hand of Sentinels over towards A. Still have quite a bit of a stack sitting outside, though, of the B main corridor, so you're seeing it now with Dapper rotating that there's still a good possibility the teams try to push their way past this. Probably going to end up involving a little bit of a split towards mid, but be oh so careful. Could be walking right into the trap set by Kusta here. All going to come down to whether he can find the impact necessary if Sentinels decide to put that pressure onto him. They decide against it, though. They're moving back away and over towards A. Tens has a lineup in mid to counter off, rotates from that direction. B side, this is 2, so we'll see how the full commitment works. They'll go towards the site that they were forced into.
Well, Mikael's going to burn away his Hunter's Fury. He doesn't end up tagging anyone, and Dapper going to follow through with some of his own. Not able to secure the frag, but looking for it. He gets Sean. Tens flies in. He'll get one of his own. Can't follow it up, though. GMD is one of the shrouded steps across the door. They're prepared for this retake now, but it's not in their favor until Nature is able to get Sean back up, but they know exactly where he was rezzed. Not able to try and secure it, though. No one being daring enough to try and dash forward or anything of the sort. And, oh, well, you see exactly why. Shazam's almost in some bad spots, but instead gets that tailwind, able to dash away. Nature now with 2 of his own, and it seems like a wrap here from Dapper, but GMD's good for it. This is an amazing retake from GENG across the board, and they'll get it done. Sean with the last frag, and some big guns to pick up as well.
Control looks so strong in the early round there for Sentinels. It took them such a long time to make the decision to go towards A, but when they worked their way in, having the control, it seemed to play the post plant, but GENG had the utility for the retake to work their way back out there, really put the pressure back onto Sentinels and make sure they hold on here. Like I said, it's a long, long road they're working their way past, but these past 2 rounds have been real convincing of them to try to go the full distance. That's not even minding the fact they need to win out OT as well at this point if they make it back to 12 rounds. Let's see how this comeback attempt will continue as we move in around 20.
Well, this time it starts in similar straits, all except for obviously the Viper utility being down inside of B long. It's simply just going to be her toxic screen is, well, no longer having an ult is Kusta. Gonna have to look for that later, but he's been tagged up royally, down to 27 HP for the time being. He's gonna need healed up from Nature quite soon, and that seems to be exactly the case that we just saw. Sentinels still sitting on their hands, though. Don't want to push too far forward as of yet. The spike sits outside of B main, and it's mostly going to be Zom's job to try and bring that in. They're probing both areas, though. Still just a stack towards the B side as Tens is trying to get anything figured out on A before he shifts out.
Sentinels are lined up for a push out on the B. Very hesitant about it, though, for reasons you might expect. This is a tough angle. They've got a lot of smokes working against them right now. Currently the dark cover from GMD, but they've already made progress on a first kill with Kyle getting taken down about 10 seconds ago. GMD going to try and stop the swing now, but he can't land the shots. Zoms takes him down. It's Nature completely through the smoke, but instead gets that first response onto Tens. But it's just a small gesture at this point. Sean might be able to get something going with the paint shells, and the other issue is Tens is now back in the fight as he's been revived.
Oh, this is terrible right now for GENG. It's a 3v5 after that res. Make it a 2v5 now. Dapper's going to try and go huge. Oh, what a play for the Sentinels. Right out of yellow. Clean up GENG. And that's a pretty easy peasy icebox.
That's going to close it down, folks. We'll be right back. Well, while the map win record for Sentinels is not looking so hot recently, the series win record for them is staying nice and secure as they are able to respond to a lost first map with an immediate win on map 2 of Icebox. That's going to take us to a third and final map, but before we get there, we've got to break down the action for map number 2 here, folks. Sam, take us through exactly what the differences that we saw here were in map number 2.
Well, the number one thing standing out for me is Sentinels finally having an answer to this calculated offense here from GENG. Time and time again, we saw fantastic retakes of the site, mostly headed off by Tens and what he was able to produce with that utility from Raze. I think this is a big change up here for them, just being able to use those paint shells like here right now. Obviously, Tens gets taken down from that op shot, but a well-placed paint shell in any sense of the term can definitely be a difference maker inside of those rounds. And besides that, man, it was the Dapper show across the board for the Sentinels.
a quiet one from Dapper too. Didn't really get to show a whole lot of it on camera necessarily, but even just those last two clips we see right there, some really impressive stuff coming out from him as he was able to quietly dominate inside of the mid round, picking up all these impact frags to make sure Sentinels were staying in control. And you're going to be able to see that here now as they dominate in most categories, especially with regards to frag wins. Playing the objective, both teams, I will agree, were relatively even inside of that map. But when it came to just outright getting into the site, getting control, and picking up the frags, Sentinels was by far the better team in that last map, in my opinion.
Oh, and you can absolutely see it as well. I mean, look at the splits on rounds there. We hit round 12, and 12 through 17 is all the Sentinels all the time. Impressive stuff from them, and shutting out GENG a lot of the regard. And just looking across the board for GENG here, you can see why it was just such a lackluster performance, not able to try and get the kills like they once were inside of that previous map.
There's one player on GENG specifically that was really missing inside of that matchup, and you guys can probably guess who this is just based off of the stats in front of you right now. GMD, unfortunately, never really saw much coming out from him inside of that. This is, for me at least, a bit of a mainstay for GENG when it comes to doing the job before that we were talking about from Dapper, being kind of quiet in the round itself, but picking up all the important impact frags, making sure the team stays even in any sort of trade-out scenario. And unfortunately, we just weren't seeing that from him inside of that last map. So hopefully, we already saw a good performance from map number 1, to be fair. Hopefully, that's going to rebound here now as we get ready to jump into map 3.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole different ball game as well, as Icebox plays a heck of a lot different than Haven does. And that's going to be our very next map here, folks, as we're going the full best of 3 in between these two. And on top of that, it's opposite day. Bind was selected by Sentinels. They lost that. GENG select Icebox, and that's out the window as well. We're down to what it boils down to. Haven, the 3 objective map that we all know and love, and one of my favorites when it comes down to it inside of the pool.
Yeah, lots of open options for attack for obvious reasons. Hey, we got a third site on top of just the very open nature of the map's rotates as well. Makes it a very interesting one, and a map that both of these teams are going to be incredibly well familiar with. I think you were talking it's close to, if not the most played map for both of these teams, correct?
It is indeed the most played map for both of these. Both of them having over 60 plays, I believe. Let me check for just a split second. 78 plays for GENG on this map, 67 for the Sentinels, and both of them having very nice win rates along with those. So if there was one to try and end this off, the icing on the cake per se for this best of 3, it's got to be Haven.
Well, it's going to be fun to watch that. Like we said, a lot of really interesting elements playing into that now. We've got TenZ back on a more normal agent. The Yoru play, like we said, was really interesting. It hasn't really worked out too well for their defensive play. So again, unlikely that makes another appearance here as we get ready to head into Haven. Expect something more normal to come out from him. And we've already seen what that extra comfortability for him specifically is going to provide for this team in terms of fragging power from that raise we saw played on Icebox. Immediately went back to nearly topping out the scoreboard until Dapper kind of stole the thunder from him in those last few rounds with those great plays that he had.
Yeah, and that was kind of to be expected as well. We touched on it a little bit when we saw his Yoru play come out during Bind. The previous series that they ended up using TenZ on that Yoru. He wasn't very successful inside of the frag department. It was more info as well as utility where he shined for the team. And that last time, definitely more of the same. Not able to get a lot done with the dimensional shifts. I think the raise pickup on Icebox definitely helped him out a lot. Now, well, what is he going to do on Haven? That's the real question. I mean, we have so many duelists in the game now. What could he possibly go with?
Well, we're going to find out in just a few minutes, folks, as map 3 is ready to get started. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll be jumping into Agent Select. And we are back again, ladies and gentlemen, ready to hop into the final map of our second series of the day here from Valorant Challengers. It's GENG versus Sentinels. If you are just joining us, we're getting ready to jump onto Haven here. We're in the agent select, locking it in now. Let's see what these teams are going to bring us. Interesting to see the Astra pick coming in from Zoms. Obviously, we've been seeing her slowly drift out of the meta, but it seems in this case, Sentinels still are going to find use for her inside of Haven.
Indeed, and a big change up to her in recent times with the 3.0 update, changing a lot of her utility around, making her cooldowns a lot longer. That's the biggest thing for her kits, so they're not going to be able to shift things around as quickly, but obviously the Sentinels more than likely have a game plan around that, so we'll see what has to be done for them. But looking across to the other side for GENG, more of the same of what we would expect from them at the end of the day. GMD going to be sticking to the Omen, Sean on the Sky yet again here, but Kusta with a pretty big shift away from the Viper and onto the Jet.
Should be a fun time, folks. We'll be jumping into it in just a few moments. Quite a few role changes happening over on the SEN side, too, which are expected, to be fair, but still are worth considering. Ten's jumping onto the Jet. Not much of a role change overall, but Dapper, for instance, going to be working himself over onto the Cypher now. And on top of that, we'll have a few other things shifting, too. Shazam now moving from the Jet that he plays on Icebox. He'll be going over towards the Sova now, so much more of a supportive role inside of this map. And Sick as well, adding a Phoenix into the play. We'll see how this all works out as the action's getting started now. Sen's on the attack, GENG's on the defense. Let's see who comes out on top and moves forward further into the upper bracket.
Okay, well, GENG starting us out early on here with a guiding light from Sky and C long to see if anyone's pushing early. So already have insight on that. It's going to be a B stack here as well for GENG. He'll get stunned out as Kusta's actually up and onto the boxes. He'll be able to take out Sick on the entry. A good read as well with the recon dart. So they'll have to shift and go somewhere else instead. It's going to be a flood in through Garage. The Cloud Burst to be able to assist as well. But as we know, Sean has already worked his way up long using that guiding light earlier on. They're going to have to try and clear this out. He steps out at a perfect moment. He'll claim one. Can he get the second? He'll at least assist. Kusta trying to get it done from the back of sight. It's a beautiful pinch right now onto Dapper as finally he'll be secured from Kusta as well. It's a quad for him on the round and starting off with some amazing economy for the Jet.
Yeah, to switch over to Jet specifically seems to already be working out pretty well for Kusta here. 422 ACS in the first round. Not too bad, I'll say so myself, but we'll see how the rest of these rounds go. The big story once again, though, is going to be GENG regaining control over the pistol, which at least on the last map, they were struggling with that quite a bit. Their Sentinels having to fight from the GENG having to fight from the back foot right from the very start, including in the second half where they really got put down on the scoreline and unfortunately started to seal the deal for the end of that map. But this time, not going to be an issue. They win that opening pistol. Will they win the follow-up, though? As we do have some aggressive buys coming in from SEN. It's not going to completely buy them out. You can still see three of them working with classics as well, but they did buy in for a couple of weapons here to add a little bit of extra firepower to the attack.
Well, Dapper a little sad about that camera. I'm sad about it too, Dapper. It didn't go the way that you wanted it to and ends up getting stuck to a wall. So we'll have to wait a couple of seconds for that cooldown to come back if he does want to use it again. And that's going to lead them to a little bit of a dry peek here on the outside. But I don't necessarily think that camera was going that way anyways. Either way, though, it's going to be Sick as the opening frag yet again inside of the Sentinels camp. GENG on the retake now effectively, although the plant has not been put down as of late. But Zoms is going to start that up immediately as we start talking about it. Down into the default position here, and they'll start setting things up, at least Astra utility-wise, to try and have some play inside of the post plant.
Well underway here, though. Sentinels controlling the situation for now, which is going to be dangerous for GENG. We nearly saw this round unfold, or we did see this round unfold in a previous map. Not going to happen this time, though. The retake is far too strong from GENG. It's a flurry of kills that results in one more member of the GENG roster going down, but ultimately, they still take it with 3 alive. They're going to get a second round up on the board.
Oh man, they are funneling so many resources right now into Kusta. Lots of frags coming his way, as well as ult points by proxy of the frags as well as the spike. So Kusta well on his way, having a Blade Storm already, and that could be something that catches the Sentinels off guard down the line. But now we've reached that infamous third round, folks, where everybody's got guns and they're trying to win their first round, and that is going to be going the way of Sentinels, as they'll be starting us out here with what seems to be a stack towards A.
It's actually going to be a bit of a bonus round here for GENG also. They're choosing not to buy in entirely, instead keeping the guns or keeping the same caliber of guns from the previous round here just because the money for those dead players. It's going to be a little rough, and that's also going to be a bit rough there. Dapper, a clean opener, 2 kills going all his direction there, and Sick makes it 3 with another one just outside of short. That's GMD going down. Nature and Sean, the only 2 players left alive here for GENG. It seems that bonus round not really going to be going their way with the way things have lined up currently. They are set up on the A site to counter out this aggression. It was looking for a moment like Sentinels were going to rotate out and just go towards B, but nah, it's a 2v5. They're going to dive in on this one when they know they're at subpar weaponry too. They'll handle it quickly, and then finally, Sen will get on the board on round 3.
Well, it's a very good thing that they did not buy some hefty weaponry there. Instead, like you said, sticking to the Sheriff and some Spectres. And that's going to be able to at least get them into this next round and keep them inside the money. That's the biggest thing. Some beautiful shots there from Dapper, and just overall a very convincing round there from the Sentinels. Tens also having some fun, even as a spike, but doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's an updraft as well as a tailwind in order to have a pretty good time there with the Classic. But now it's down to, well, we usually end up talking about the beginning of every one of these games. It's the rifle round, folks, in between these two. And the Sentinels tie us up here at 2-2 and start taking it to GENG on this offense.
Yeah, the real rifle round finally starting to show its head. They're going to find Sentinels getting a lot of intel early on, specifically towards Garage. They're going to see it's completely open for the taking, so that will allow Sick to slowly drift towards that, get into a position just outside. Doesn't look like he's going to be alone and mounting up for that play either. Dapper seems to be joining him while keeping Overwatch on B. Aggression. For the rest of the team, they're going to work their way up long. The run it back comes out from Sick. They're going to try to push themselves forward from that position, and what on the site pretty much for free here. But as they move forward, Nature also goes down. Cannot use the cages anymore. Get that intel in the late round here. That's all going to go down. Trades continuing to go out. It's all in the favor of Sen once again.
Planted.
Brought down to just 2 remaining players, Mikhail and Kusta. The neural net goes out as well, giving away the location of those final 2 players and killing most of any hope that would still be alive for a retake.
They're just going to take this one nice and slow, especially with Mikhail here at mid. Instead, just going to go for the exits onto the Sentinels, and honestly, pretty big brain when it comes down to it. Don't want to try and rush in there and just end up losing guns that you don't really need or that you necessarily need going into these future rounds. And I ended up having a frag here, but Dapper, seemingly aware, although it's simply just via brain power, nothing else, no true insight onto this. Continuing to check Cam. Is he going to swing this? This is the big question for me, as they continue to basically stare at each other through these walls. But yeah, no one's going to do anything. Was not really expecting any forward progress there from Dapper, as he had already made it out, and that's exactly what we're going to get. Sentinels with their second round.
Another 2-2 start for both of these teams. It's like the 3rd time today we've hit this scoreline here, as it seems to be a very common occurrence both in this series and the previous one as well. I believe it happened on one of those 2 maps. So taking a look at how the teams will move forward from here. Unfortunately, that round is going to break the GENG economy, as that was their first big investment after the bonus round. It's looking like some players still have the money coming off the save for reinvestment. That's going to be Mikhail and Kusta. The rest of the team, well, you might be able to guess, not going to have a whole lot to contribute inside of this round. So just that 500 or so credits being spent to get the upgraded pistol, not much beyond that.
Well, Kusta is going to have that operator. That's a big thing for me inside of this one. Actually ends up buying that, so could end up losing that in this round depending on how it goes. But as we'd expect, more than likely just going to be manning C along and waiting for that rotation. Have to see how this will end up breaking here, as most of GENG has stacked themselves up on A, prepared for a Sentinel's assault, surely coming anytime. Slowly but surely, need to get rid of these coins and try and find something out on this site. Haven't been able to find out too much insight just yet. A curveball out. Do they check the corner? They will. Ten's dashing right into one of his cloud bursts. He does it yet again. One standing right in front of him, but the initial one goes away. He'll lose his life because of it. We have Sentinels members shooting at Sentinels members. Everyone's so confused as to what's happening, but it's all going to come down to Kusta in a 1 versus 3. And Kusta, you better run for the hills, my friend. That gun is way too expensive to try and work your way out of this one.
Yeah, if anything, he could just post up here at the tunnel and try to see if he can maybe get himself 1 pick or so against a greedy member of Sentinels. But they know for sure he's got the operator now, so probably not anyone that's smart anyway gonna end up peeking out towards that doorway. Instead, They're working on a bit of a flank to try and take care of that, as it's still going to be a big boon to them if they can drop this gun. No way Kusta has the money to rebuy it. I would find it very doubtful that he would have that at this point, considering how dire things are in the GENG camp. Either way, though, Dapper having a bit of a problem locating Kusta, so looking like he might be able to sneak out of this round after all, and I'd say that that's pretty much going to come to fruition here. There goes the spike. No one else close enough to find him, so that gun will make it in the next round.
Well, at least good news there for GENG, as their Sky, or at least their Jet, will be able to hold on to that for a while longer. And that also means going into this next round, they're going to have full weaponry, which is quite the big deal, trying to battle back against the Sentinels. You can see how aggressive they are with these offenses, but obviously they're well aware of the firearms that GENG have going into that round. They know they can be forceful, as when GENG are trying to fight back, it's more than likely going to be a pistol or something that isn't necessarily going to be something that takes them out in one shot. GENG try to catch them off guard with the op for C long, but doesn't work out. Instead, back onto this round now. We're going to move Kusta as well across towards A, so we'll be playing A long instead here, but once again, Sentinels going away from Kusta's position as they're looking towards C.
Sick already with a very forward position to play off of here for the rest of Sentinels. He's all the way inside of the garage window. He's not going to get aggressive with this either. I think he's just going to sit here. But paranoia from GMD as he reads into that play. Immediately counters out the position from Sick. And establishes some good presence from GENG in the backside of C as they get ready to fend off the push from Sentinels. Sentinels don't even seem too concerned, or don't even seem too confident, I mean to say, in their push anymore. After they lose their garage presence, they're going to fall back after going halfway up through long, trying to work their way out either into mid or just sitting back and playing for picks for a few seconds. They don't have a whole lot of time to play, though, is the thing, so they'll need to make a decision soon with only 40 seconds left to get their spike down.
Yeah, C site a little too hot there, and also the Seekers coming out from Sean, so that'll read out the Sentinels members, but who else will? Be Kusta with a hell of a flick as he takes down Shazam. A reset here from Tens is Sean holding things back inside of short. It's going to be Kusta yet again for a beautiful frag, but not before Tens takes him down after he updrafts on top of the boxes. Tens trying to make it work for his team out of short, pre-firing everything he possibly can, but Sean with a beautiful read will shoot him right through the dark cover. It's all down to Dapper now instead of a 1v3, but he doesn't necessarily have the time in order to make this happen. He'll at least get a frag, a participation trophy for round 6, but it's going to be GENG with the round overall.
GENG pick things up after they find some very nice reads inside of the early round that set them up for a great advantage. Starts immediately off with the garage pick and then fends off entirely before they even commit to it. What would have been the Sentinels push up through C long. Sentinels, of course, try to call the audible, but Kusta primarily is there to stop the action, get in the way of it, and secure that third round for GENG to tie us up. That breaks the streak from Sentinels as well. 3 rounds into their pocket, but finally is broken. And now, with GENG having a bit of confidence built up, it's looking like they're going to rely on that as they go into this next round here. Recon Dart is away. Not going to ping anyone as far as I can tell, but Kusta still establishing the angle. Try to punish this early pressure from SEN down long.
We saw the difference maker that Kusta could be inside of these previous 2 rounds. Initially playing C long and nobody pushes into him. Next round, gets multiple frags on A long, and well, it's happening again in between these two, but this time it's Tens and Sean, as Sean trades out Tens. Now down into a 4v4. Kusta will still maintain his presence on A long, though, as the Sentinels have pushed up short. He'll be able to procure himself Shazam as well as the spike. That's the read that they need, as we'll be able to at least see that go down. No big momentum shift here from GENG, though, on defense, as they're simply going to sit on their hands and see what the Sentinel response will be.
50 seconds left here, so Sentinels, once again, going to be forced into making a choice sooner rather than later, but the longer they sit back and wait, the more opportunities they seem to give over to GENG to make the aggressive plays like what we just saw from Sean there. He strikes true, brings the Sentinels count total down to only 2 players alive here between Dapper and Zoms. Zoms just going to commit to the inside of Garage, as C seems like the best option for them at this point, and I would generally agree with that. Nature will block off the backside to make it seem like they have more presence, and of course slow down the pacing of this push so that he can do that. A very clean double from him to establish the 4th round and the lead for GENG.
There's some fantastic defensive setups here from GENG. They've finally gotten Sentinel's number. These picks finally happening for them as well. And that's something that you and I were touching on Icebox, is that it was really the opening kills that they weren't able to find like they once were. And it seems like Haven has flipped the script on us here yet again, as they're continually taking it to the Sentinels. And the Sentinels still with some solid openings. I like the way that they're trying to find this intel and work the map, but it's just time and time again that GENG is able to shut the door on them. We'll see if they're able to do it yet again here. As well, we're going to have Kusta move along the map all over again. No longer on A long, moving over to C, wants to keep them guessing where this operator lies.
Tens has brought out the knives here, so it's going to be a light investment in the round specifically for him, so that he can play off of that. Looking for a first opportunity to strike on the inside of Garage, but instead, Sean is going to send a flash out towards mid to say hello, and that will send it off at least for now. It seems to have attracted the attention of Sentinels, however, is now Sean may have to very well go up against a three-player push. He's going to get a step ahead of them, however, as he moves out and catches Tens. That's the knives gone to the ground. Obviously, not a huge loss in the economy game there, but still, an ultimate gone by the wayside. Tens not going to be able to assist with that aggressive entry any further. The fact that they're still down a player. Kusta trying to capitalize upon this now. They're going to end up using the Cosmic Divide, and on top of that, a Gravity Well will stop Sean from pushing directly past it to immediately punish the plant attempt. For Dapper, though, still trying to spam in and work past this point, but won't be able to do the damage necessary. In fact, here comes Sean right through the Cosmic Divide, and the rest of the team is not too far behind. Seekers are out to find the positions of the players in mid to get the neural theft going as well to get that information doubly so, but even so, getting on the defuse is a bit of an issue here right now for GENG. Mikhail tries to go for it, but no! Sen somehow hold on and pick up the round for themselves.
What an amazing round here from the Sentinels. It's all doom and gloom until they're finally able to get the spike down on B, but it seems like GENG has what it takes for the retake. The biggest piece of the puzzle there for me, Sean, flying right out into mid, those Seekers in tow, trying to get any frag he possibly can, but they can't get the initial kills. That's the biggest thing. We see Shazam step up to the plate. He shuts down the push from Garage, and then immediately switches over towards mid and starts taking out the rest of the GENG roster. Fantastic round for them, and amazing mid-round adjustments to be able to procure that one. And big shifts once again here as they're looking towards C long. It's going to be an ult for Sick now. He'll get rid of the camera. He gets blinded though, but not that big of a deal as Tens dashes forward on the flat. They're going to take out 3 members of GENG here at the very beginning of the round, and it seems like the Sentinels do not want to slow down anytime soon.
It's a definitive execute coming out there from SEN after the round they won in the previous play. Now looking to really try and lock things down here. They might as well already have it for themselves. There's no way GENG is going for a retake at this point. Cal and Kusta way over on the other side of the map, holding on to A. And before they could even start their rotate, pretty much all 3 of the C players were dead. So it's a non-starter for them on the retake. They're going to sit back and serve the guns once again and play out this safe.
Oh, Sick. He's got a curveball, so more than likely an easy frag for him. He'll at least get that one. Kusta's got to play safe now as he's been forced even deeper inside of long. He's trying to find any frag that he can, and oh man, this is so worrisome. He's going to end up losing the op, and Sentinels will get their own operator from that. What a round there from the Sentinels. As you said, very convincing offensive round there from them. I love the use of the run it back on Sick, especially in tow with Tens. Dashes right to the top of the plant box and ends up just taking out all of these members. Amazing stuff across the board from Sentinels on that one.
Speaking of amazing stuff, Dapper is still topping out the charts there for the Sentinels. He's got double the kill count of literally the rest of his teammates, as everybody else on the squad right now is rocking with 5 frags total the 9 rounds we've played out. So a very even contribution coming out across the board for SEN. Just with that clear front runner still being Dapper. We expect that after the last map, and it's going to start once again with him as well as Sick able to get opening kills. Dapper will be lost to Sean, but Sick immediately trades that out. And once again, within the first 10 to 20 seconds of the round, we're already down to a 4v2.
I mean, to be fair, they literally had 3 people swing mid-window, and like that's going to be pretty difficult to try and combat, especially when like the most people you see swing that window, usually 2, and that's exactly why it's going to catch GENG off guard, and they're going to just get full-on eviscerated inside of round 10. Sentinels look like they're playing against a preschool inside of these last 3 rounds. I mean, it's very harsh, yes, but GENG just not able to get anything done inside of these last 3. It's really scary going forward, but obviously, economy coming into that as as well, expecting for them to try and bounce back inside of this rifle.
Painful to call things like this out, but you got to call it out when it's that much of an outlier. Kyle really struggling inside of this game right now with an average combat score of 14.
Oh, man. Dude, that's like half the people's age that are watching this right now, you know what I mean?
Okay,
I'm just kidding. I'm 14 as well. We're all 14 on the internet, John. That's how it works. I'm just kidding. Anyways, besides that point, low ACS, but hoping that he bounces back inside of this round. And, well, Tens and the rest of the Sens, speaking of laughing matters, definitely not them. As well, it's been 10 rounds that we've seen so far, and they've been able to get 6 of them, although the last 3 have been way more convincing than the others, and it looks like they're doing more of the same here as well. Pushing forward inside of short, we'll be able to get the cameras out, and once again, we're going to have very similar execute properties here for Sentinels. It's 6-6 with the run it back. We're going to have a dash forward from the Jet as well, and still a perfectly safe and fully healthy Sentinels roster to put a spike down.
I mean, these have been like crystal clean executes from Sentinels for the last 3 rounds now here. Just waltzing up right to the site, winning pretty much every single engagement and almost every single time, bringing it down to a 5v2 or a 4v2.
Yes, indeed, my friend. And speaking of what's been happening to GENG, we're seeing more of the same. And for our friend Mikhail, still going to be keeping that average combat score as well, although probably younger at this point, sadly. So I have to see if he's able to bounce back later on. But you have to feel for GENG right now, as they cannot find a single answer to anything that the Sentinels are doing. It's just so very forceful. GENG can simply not rotate people fast enough to try and deal with it. They get full site control, and there's not much you can do really past that on those re-entries, especially with what is happening to this poor round. And then, okay, Tens is also going to go down as he tries to take down Sean. So some big frags here, but obviously this is going to be the last round. They'll give some money over to GENG economy-wise, but more than likely not going to equate to full buys. And yeah, Mikhail, he's doubled in age, John. See, now we're all 28 years old.
You get 2 assists.
You can like drive, pay taxes. It's all the fun stuff that every adult ever wants to do. See, guys, you actually want to be 14.
So Mikhail helping out a little bit on the inside of that round, slowly starting to improve things, but still definitely struggling overall. In that last round, once again, just another example of the GENG struggle that's been showing up for at least 3 or 4 of these rounds in a row now, where SEN has been able to, unfortunately, just walk right up and kill GENG on quite a few of the sites to bring it down to that 4v2 situation that I was talking about before. But once again, at the beginning of this one, we do see aggression on its way out for GENG, most notably from Sean and probably Kusta again. In fact, I think it's Kyle this time that's supporting Sean on the forward push. GMD also in from short too, so really does not want to give over A as an option whatsoever to Sentinels on their attack.
GENG, last defense here. Trying to get it done. They'll at least get a read on what's happening currently inside of a lobby. GENG, and more specifically Sean, with a huge round, one that they've been desperately looking for. Also going to send out the Seekers, and he knows that Shazam's close. It's a dark cover now to try and get him out. We'll see if he's able to do so. Trailblazer out to try and hunt him down as well, and he'll actually get the heck out of dodge. Sean does not get any insight onto his current rotation either, so it's up to the remaining GENG members to try and shut this down. Nature with a beautiful shot on the Tens, but it's immediately refragged. But this is looking like a GENG round, finally, after so very long. And more importantly than that, it looks like Mikhail might be able to get up and past this ACS that we've been talking about. Shazam now into the 1 versus 4, has an opportunity coming out of garage, although it's quite bleak. Spike right in front of him, the cross being held from Kusta, and it's a quick burst from the Bulldog to end us on these halves.
I like the play there from GENG, kind of the response of answering fire with fire. They had a lot of these very aggressive executes from SEN coming into their site, like I said, for that past 3 to 4 rounds now, and that was working flawlessly for Sentinels every single time they did it. So what do we do instead? All right, let's get up in their face in both short as well as long. They're at least towards the A side, challenge it directly, and that works out well for them. What's interesting is that they were doing that earlier on in the half, though. I didn't get to pay close attention as to why that stopped, but they moved away from it for some reason, and finally jumping onto it again with a little bit of a different style, having Sean do the push instead of Kusta, probably due to economy reasons, but it worked out just as strongly as it was for Kusta earlier on in the half.
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily enough, though, GENG will be able to shore that up just a little bit. Only a 2-round deficit going into the half now, as they'll eventually get onto offense. And this is something we've been seeing from GENG inside of these pistol rounds, John. They do not like to buy actual pistols. Instead, it's mostly utility and light shields, and this is going to be no different. All classics, light shield and utility now for GENG, as they're focused on C, but still have a lot of different opportunities to try and rotate around, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They'll leave Kusta here to see if anyone wants to get forward inside of C main, but more than likely won't be the case.
Look at another pretty slow pistol being played out here by GENG. Good reasoning behind that, too. Some of these pistols have gone very bad very quickly for GENG on the last map, so I agree that a careful approach is probably the right way to go about this, especially considering the aggression we've tended to see from SEN on a few of these rounds, including right now, what we're getting from Sick on the flank. He's figured out that there is not going to be a whole lot happening over on this side of the map. Now, he doesn't know if they're not stacked out towards mid yet. That's the only other thing. So we can't give the outright call that it's working it towards A. That's, in fact, why we're going to see, I believe that was a dark cover sent out towards Garage. He's trying to bait them into thinking that they are indeed still going for either the mid or the C side. But meanwhile, Tens is all alone on A. At least upstairs he is. But he's been able to rip two-player heads off anyway. Nature and Kusta both gone. Tens really taken out by the shock dart. He's able to dodge out of the way, but the damage will fully take him down anyway. But Tens with two more as well, only to go down to GMD on the final kill, but it doesn't matter. The rest of SEN can easily overwhelm him and pick up the second half pistol.
It's not just Tens inside of heaven. He's got 6 bullet buddies inside of that gun, and he is delivering them to every noggin, poking out from short. Amazing round there from Tens. And Sentinels shoot ahead yet again. GENG, though, definitely with a heck of a opportunity there to try and claim that one, but just could not get Tens dislodged from this heaven position time and time again. Almost able to get that third one there as well, but ended up getting the quad at the end of the day anyway, so what does it really matter? Fantastic stuff for them, and GENG back onto the pistols for this following round.
Needless to say, Tens is the difference maker there. He goes down in heaven, and that's full flood of the site going into the hands of GENG, but instead, he single-handedly stops the entire execute. Gets the 2 impact kills when his teammates group up with him, goes in for 2 more as well when he jumps out of heaven. Beautiful stuff, and a nice trade at least from Sean here, but it does come at the cost of losing Kusta in the early round, and unfortunately, Sean already at low HP. He can't fend off the rest of that damage. Sick just tearing him apart now as he's got 3 on the round. The last one alive is GMD. He'll get taken down by Zoms. That'll be a quick 9th round on the board for SEN.
Well, I can say that we all expected that one to go the way that it did. GENG simply just trying to push the envelope inside of the eco. Look for any frags that they possibly can, and, well, they really can't get all that much. Either way, though, down to the rifle now, and this is where it all matters. For all the marbles now, GENG need to win this round. They have to slow down the Sentinels at some point, and it's got to come when Sentinels are on this bonus. Look across this buy right now. You got 2 rifles on Sick and Dapper, Tens with the Marshall still, and 2 Spectres in the likes of Shazam and Zoms. GENG, if there was an opportunity, it all starts here.
Let's see if that's going to be the case. Tens going to immediately get the way that he's going to get spotted out by the drone, but peeks soon enough so that Shazam can capitalize on the damage done by Tens. Take out that first player with a shock dart. Ultimately translates down to a 1-for-1 trade. Tens trying to make the best effort with minimal gunpowder that he had in that situation.
Here.
Well, now for GENG, it's slow and steady. That trade happening there has locked them out for the time being, sadly, because Sean is most of their utility when it comes to trying to find intel. Yeah, they do still have the camera of nature, but you can run a dog around and try and find some people. Makes it a lot easier. GMD will initially get 1, but Zoms follows up with 2 of his own, and that's spike control, like you said, inside of sewer. See what GENG's response is, but as of right now, low in economy and only having these 2 rifles, this kill's gonna matter a lot. Can Dapper get both? He does, and Sentinels push GENG right back into the hole.
3 more rounds left here, and Sentinels claim the series as well as being able to push themselves forward, putting them only 1 match away from being able to, at minimum, qualify for the next event. And of course, be in contention for our top 4, seeing how far they can go from that point forward. Away from that, of course, looking at GENG potentially getting closer to not getting knocked out of our event, but definitely going down into the lower bracket. We're going to have to fight for survival for the rest of this weekend. Time to find out if GENG can bring things back here, or if Sentinels are going to try and snap the jaws shut of any potential comeback. It is going to be a light bot round from GENG, so once again, they have to use raw amount of numbers they have to push out towards long in order to make any sort of right step forward. Unfortunately, it's not working out too well. That's a good trade from GMD, though. And now Sean, with the free presence up short, is able to get a beautiful shot against Zom to take him down as well. Seekers are going to work their way out. They do get the intel that at least one player is going to be hiding out through the defender spawn tunnel. Didn't get great intel as to Sick already being in heaven, but they can probably safely assume that someone is here. I'll just have to confirm that information, get everybody in position, counter out the retake. GMD actually just taking the fight outright from heaven there. Neural Theft going to come in here from Dapper also. Gets the position of Sean. Is going to assume the other opponent is below him, and that's the right choice. But now, how does Dapper go back out? How does he jump out this window? There's no easy way to do it. He's going to get cloud bursted as well here. Keep in mind, time is ticking as all this goes away. I think he's made the decision to back away from this one now. He is working his way over towards the tunnel, but the problem is time is getting far too low for him to get both of these kills and commit to the retake, so he's just going to pick up the exits here. Clean kill on Kusta. Doesn't want to take the chance on going for Sean. Time to back away. This round goes to Gen G.
Well, again, there was a time to do it. It was now, and they'll be able to get it done. It's a thrifty for Gen G, and one that was desperately needed. Finally, looking across the board once again. Oh, Mikael, I am so sorry, my friend. 1-12 currently with 6 assists. The ACS has gone up, luckily enough. He's been finding some impact inside of utility department, really, starting to add up those assists, but we want to see him wake up inside of those frags. It's a big part of what's happening to Gen G right now. There's a big thing that happens inside of FPSs like this, where it really does sometimes boil down to just simply winning your ones.
We'll see, though. Sean is winning a whole lot of those ones right now and is being a big difference maker for Gen G aside a couple of the other members of this roster, too. We're going to see Sick try to burst his way out into the open 10s right behind him. It doesn't work for 3 quick kills. One of them's the run it back, of course, as they work their way forward. Shazam is also able to go 1-for-1, but these trades do not favor SEN anymore at this point in the round here. They're down into the 4v2, the very same situation that Gen G was dealing with in the last half for so many rounds in a row. And now, finally, Gen G gets some revenge here. He's going to put that pressure right back onto Sentinels. Dapper, with the first good refrag, though, against Sean, will open up the potential for these guys to start pushing back out.
Well, for the Sentinels, onto the retake now. I have utility down here for Gen G as GMD pushes himself forward with the Shrouded Step. An opportunity here to continue to hold this down. Astra utility in tow as well as Kusta's got the cross. It's not looking too hot for Dapper as well as Zoms as he's the last remaining member for the Sentinels, and he's simply just going to hold the exit. Can't do much more, and definitely a round going in favor of Gen G. Fantastic offense for them as they clear out all of sewer. 3 separate, technically, bodies going down in that, but 2 of them being Phoenixes.
Starting to look a lot like Icebox right now with the way that Gen G is crawling back from the depths of the point share here. Obviously, this time they've got a lot more room to lose rounds inside of this comeback situation as well compared to Icebox, where they were immediately staring down 12 rounds from SEN. This time it's only 10. They still have those 3 rounds to play off of here. They're already incredibly close to Sentinel's own scoreline. There's a 3-round deficit between these 2 teams now. Let's see who comes out on top of the next one.
Okay, well, they finally cut all the way through the Sentinels' economy. This is the last round that they are able to fully buy here, unless they're going to go on an economy in the future. So, Gen G, this is now or never. If they're able to try and get these next 3 rounds, this would be the time to do it. And looking across the board, it seems like they're going to take their sweet time doing so. As of right now, mostly focused over towards A lobby as they're working their way in towards A main. Seekers out. 2 of them going to go behind, 1 dashing forward as well. It's Dapper alone on A, currently inside of heaven. And it's an aggressive forward assault here from Gen G as they're already primed to set this spike down.
Yeah, there's no reason why Gen G should have held off the gas right there when you consider that only one of the Seekers actually worked its way into the site, so they knew this was going to be a light defense as they worked their way in, and they were correct to assume so. The rotates are here from SEN, but once again, this is going to be tough to get back out onto the site here now. However, despite that fact, they've gotten 3 untraded kills here. Kusta finally responding with 1, but it seems like it's far too much pressure, far too quickly from SEN, and they retake it with no problems whatsoever.
Insane retake there from Sentinel. Sentinels, and most notably Tens. I know we all talk about this man so very much, but the chaos that he just created inside of that post plant is something that has got to be notated. Immediately dashes towards the mid-site box, sits on top of that inside of his own cloudburst, and just simply dives, and dodges out of them, continually taking down GENG members left and right. They're eventually able to procure him, but now before the damage was already dealt and the rest of the Sentinels roster can move in. And as we saw, Dapper with a triple inside of that one as well. Sentinels with some fantastic stuff in round 18, but now on to round 19. Getting an early read on a main here yet again, or a lobby, excuse me, as they will be dedicating most of Shazam's utility to this area. He's going to Owl Drone out as well, trying to avoid that blind from the guiding light. Going to at least get some insight onto where the current position is of GENG, and yes, especially onto Nature.
Only spotting out Nature, though, so a lot of incorrect assumptions can be made if they're going to take the safe call and say that, yep, that's the only one we've seen. But given that there's already a history of A executes, I'm going to guess that Sentinels will be a little bit smarter than that. And I believe that they have been. Tens on top of this jump-up box here. The drone gonna end up getting destroyed here, so I don't think Tens has been revealed, but no, never mind. He gets checked out by Sean as he picks up the important entries once again. Kusta gets the actual kill in the meanwhile, but it's another clean entry, and this time they got kills for it as well. In the last round, Sentinels held back, kept the full breadth of their team alive, and waited to play for the post plant. They don't have that luxury this time. They're already 3v5 here, and once again, I'm not even sure if they're going to attempt it, as this A site is such a tough retake.
Yeah, again, we were talking about previously, their economy is shot, so they actually have to save here, because if they lose these guns, it's going to be a full save for them. And obviously, that's more than likely going to be yet another GENG round, so that would make it effectively 11-9 at that point. Either way, though, amazing round here from GENG. Sentinels simply getting caught off due to timing on those different peaks, as well as utilities flying in. Most notably, obviously, being well, Tens standing on top of the boost box there for short yet again, and not able to get any of those frags. They work right under him inside of the nebula smoke there, and he's not able to get much done past that. The guiding light flies in, fully blinds the site, and GENG simply waltz on and pick up the frags.
It's unfortunate, too, because he had the right read on the situation, in my opinion. He went and made a call probably that he didn't get spotted by the Owl Drone, and that was probably the correct call. But the issue is, yes, someone else, Kusta, is able to spot him out because he waits just that little bit too long of an amount of time there and ultimately has himself given away. So GENG, though, what's important here is the quick response from them to very quickly bounce back into a controlling situation. Keep in mind, they're still working from a 5-10 deficit to try and come back yet again here. We've already seen one impressive comeback today. This would be another one from GENG here, but they've got to be careful now. With 11 rounds on the board for Sentinels, they give up too much, and the game's going to be over before they can even get there.
Well, expecting this to come down to those high utility executes yet again, probably headed off by Sean, trying to find some insight as to what's going on one of these sites. It's been mostly A that we've been seeing from them in recent history, which means that we're probably going to see something else. And you can see Sentinels very aware of this as well, as they're still spread throughout the entirety of Haven at different points. Still have our stacks on C, as well as Garage being handled currently. So worried about every single facet of this area, and Sick going to get a fantastic read onto this. He sees the cloud smoke up top, but does he know that Jet is more than likely inside of this? He'll work forward instead. It's Kusta with the first kill, but Sick with the refrag. Curveball's out, but now it's Tens as well to hop inside. Sick and Shazam and all of the Sentinels mostly hopping right into C. GENG thought they had found a hole, but it was definitely not the case. Sentinels finally find 12.
By far the best fend-off we've seen yet from Sentinels. An incredibly quick response. The rotates are incredibly smooth. Sick has to let one of his teammates go down there as he holds inside of that cloudburst, but thankfully he's able to play out the situation correctly, gets the trade, prevents that Jet from finding massive impact against the rest of his teammates that were rotating in from the defender route, and obviously opens up the floodgates for the rest of them to completely overwhelm GENG's post plant there. So now SEN get up on map and match point now. One more round is all they need to secure this series.
Going to be led off yet again in the same fashion. We're going to see the recon out from Shazam, trying to get a read on A lobby, and well, we're going to have the GENG stack here yet again as well, and they're probably quite worried about what's going on around these boxes. Trying to fly in now is Kusta, but he's going to get caught in his up trap mid-coin, so ends up being caught off guard, and now Dapper trying to find some kills via the info he's getting, but none of it able to be secured from that heaven position. It's going to be the plant for GENG and a full-on 5v5 assault here going into the post plant.
Sick, ready to move back in quickly. He's got the run it back available here too if they want to try and use that for a free re-entry piece of utility here. But the one-way cloud burst is going to be rough as SEN tries to go forward. It's actually 10 to take the first step, and as a result of that, he's going to go down 6. Run it back is going to get taken out, and well as Dapper just a few seconds later from that. So SEN trying to make some bit of an effort here, but once again, when it comes to that A site, if they give over to the control to GENG and are not able to at least kill some of them here, it just seems like it's a complete miss on the retake before it even begins, and this is going to be another example of that, as SEN are now falling back and calling for the save here, and GENG are going to get their 9th round on the board. 3 more for them, and they take it to OT.
You almost have to feel bad for GENG, as it seems like they're just stuck to the A site. No matter what they do across the map in other areas, they're just not able to get a spike down and a round win. So see if they're going to continue this as well. They still need 3 rounds, and I highly doubt the Sentinels will let them do so continually on the A side. It is going to be very similar setups, though, as I'm assuming Shazam is going to stick around A long. It's up to GENG to switch this out, because I believe the Sentinels have their answer.
Well, time to see if indeed that answer will be the correct one here for Sentinels. Still just need that 1 round in order to close things down. Tens as well going with the light buy here so that he can just utilize the knives when he gets close to one of his opponents. The rest of the team fully buying into this one. Tens wasting no time bringing out the knives as well. A quick first pick from him as he takes down Sean. That's an incredibly important player, especially when it comes to the importance of the entry game here for GENG. Sean, no more guiding lights and no more just Sean in general, who's been a very prominent player in this matchup. You still are going to have other things to play for. The Cosmic Divide being the most obvious one that now works its way out onto the C site. There's immediately players in position. Sick, though, splitting up this attack, and this is going to be problematic here for GENG. It comes down to just Shazam as well as Zoms to play out the rest of this round for Sentinels, and they're holding Nature. Now the last hope here for GENG. He's going to move forward, but falls to Shazam, and that'll be the end of it as Sentinels take the map and the series 2-1. We'll be right back for the post-map. And welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the VCT Challengers for North America. Sentinels, your previous major champions, coming out on top yet again in this matchup versus GENG, but they prove themselves once again that they can indeed drop a map, as it has to go the full distance to all three over here to Haven to settle things, and truly did seem to settle it. Isn't that right, Soap?
Yes, indeed, my friend. Is Sentinels never truthfully out of the driver's seat. It was getting a touch worrisome there towards the late half of, obviously Sentinel's defense, but past that, it was really TENS showing up in convincing fashion across the board for them time and time again from this defensive side, and also helped seal the deal at the end of the day.
Which shouldn't be too much of a surprise, right? If you're a Sentinels fan, we've been seeing him step up to the plate in numerous ways like this for many, many matches and many, many moons in the past here. You got to call out some of the other players here too, specifically on the side of GENG. We saw some great performances coming out in the last couple of maps from Sean Kusta, definitely having his moments on the defensive side of Haven with those A-long pushes too, but unfortunately not enough to beat out Sentinels here today. They take that final map 13-9, as well as with a 2-1 scoreline overall. Definitely winning out on the frag win. So close on the objective, but that seems to have been the difference. Those frag-heavy rounds constantly going the way of SEN versus GENG. Not only the case for this map too, but another map where we had a similar difference between the two teams.
Yeah, a heck of a story across this entirety of the best of three, and obviously Bind probably being the standout map to a lot of people, but this one also standing out for different reasons. Sentinels practically fully shutting down Mikael inside of this one, a combat score of 52, which is one of the lowest ones I have seen inside of competitive Valorant. But as you said, a good showing for Sean inside of this one. It was just too little at the end of the day.
Not to mention, once again, good to see GMD back on a good position there. Definitely a bit of a slower start for him on the inside of the matchup, but a major improvement over what we saw in the second map overall. Shazam having himself quite a prominent performance there too in the middle of that matchup, as he's able to scrounge himself a 2.1 KD. So Sentinels move themselves forward. Like we said, they're going to be pushing onward further into the upper bracket, into those semifinals now. And for GENG, we are going to be seeing them drop down into the lower bracket, where again, they're not going to be out of the play just yet, but they do have to fight for survival now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to GENG's play right now, I really feel like they can bounce back. There's a lot of opportunities still here for them, especially inside of that last map. It was still quite a close scoreline given the circumstances and what ended up happening to Mikael. So we're hoping to see him bounce back in the next series and hopefully see GENG later on down the line.
That'll certainly be the case for the rest of this weekend. But for now, we do want to highlight a nice moment that went on the inside of the matchup. It's our instant karma moment presented by Credit Karma. So let's go ahead, if we can get that up on the screen now, and take a look at a very nice moment that happened from TENS. We called this out in the middle of the match, and we just want to do it again, and we'll try to get confirmation on the interview here in just a moment. But this was a nice play, as it was an unorthodox use of the Dimensional Drift ultimate from TENS. He goes in, slightly kind of tries to body block Mikael as well as Nature on the inside of there, as well as giving out the great intel to the rest of his teammates to make sure that they could close down the rest of that execute and win the round. And that's the feeling of instant karma.
Yes, indeed. And guess what, guys? We got Shazam on the other line. He's ready for our Verizon post-match interview. So let's get right into it. Shazam, how are you doing, my man?
I'm all right. Just glad that you won that game.
Yeah, a little
good.
worrisome there, especially initially, huh? So initial questions, we'll just get right into it, my man. We got Yoru again on Bind, and obviously that not going the way that you guys wanted. What's your thoughts on it?
I don't think we've ever thrown a game that bad. We were up like 8-0. Yeah, that was just a horrible throw by us. But I know exactly what went wrong, so I'm not like gonna stress too much over it. But yeah, the Yoru, our attack side was really good, and I think that it played a large role. So.
Were you guys worried at all shifting over towards Icebox for the second map, considering what went on last week versus the Sonics, or do you think you guys were able to round out the issues there pretty well?
I don't think we were that worried because I had a solid game plan for Icebox. Like, we pretty much knew exactly what they were going to do, and had like good reads. I feel like we were in control of Icebox, even though the first half was kind of close. So it wasn't too worrisome. Just unfortunate that we ruined our bind streak, but it happens.
Have you been enjoying the jet play, by the way, on Icebox? We've been seeing you mess around with that quite a bit, and that has to be fun, as obviously it breaks away a little bit from some of the other roles you play on different maps.
Yeah, some of it can be boring at times, kind of like letting everyone else clean up the site while I like try to secure their own. Jet's fun. I think that map was a bit of a slow start for me though, but my teammates step it up.
Hey, it happens to the best of us. And speaking of the best of us, Tens. I mean, a big change up from him for that first map, like we were talking about on the Yoru going into the last two. He takes the Raze on Icebox as well, and that seemed to be a big difference maker for you guys, where you're able to get those paint shells to land a lot of the time and dealing so much damage that GENG really couldn't deal with. Was this just kind of one of those mid-game plan things, just like, all right, we're going to throw it at the wall and hope it sticks, or really what was shifting away from Reyna doing for you?
No, we've been practicing with different comps. Like we've been practicing with Tyson on Raze. I think her kit just offers a lot more in terms of like the meta right now of like delaying the plants and stuff. Reyna's obviously really good and he's good at it, but I think he's getting a lot better at using like Raze's utility and playing situations more disciplined. So that's like kind of been our focus with their icebox and kind of just fixing the way that we play it. Outside of that, like yeah, we're constantly trying different comps and different agents on players on maps, and sometimes we'll switch up last minute, but usually we have like rehearsed it.
It's been nice speaking with you once again, Shazam. Just as a final send away here, any thanks or shout outs you want to give out here to the crowd at home?
Just shout out to the fans, you know. Sorry, no hot tub stream, I guess, but we had to do it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Shazam. We appreciate you coming on here. We hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of the run throughout the rest of Challengers. Have a good night, my man.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
All right, folks, that'll bring it back over to us now. Once again, Sentinels coming out on top of that matchup and continuing to establish their dynasty here when it comes to North American Valorant. Some great insight coming out there from Shazam as well, talking about Icebox and whatnot, and seeing they fully had good confidence, I think is a good way to put it, going into that second map, even considering the uncharacteristic loss from them in the last week. But that'll do it for myself and Stokes here today, ladies and gentlemen. We've got one more match coming up, so stick with us, and that'll be coming up in just a few minutes.
And welcome on back in. It is finally time for our final best of 3 of the night, and potentially our first team being eliminated here on the mainstream. My name is Upmine, joined here by Sully, taking you guys through the very last game of the stream, and it is, of course, Rise facing off against GENG. Sully, we just spectated none other than GENG actually going down to Sentinels, but it was a great game for GENG, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a great game for GENG because they looked really, really strong going against, again, our best team in North America. So heads held high, I'd say, for GENG going to this game. But if we could take a quick look at our bracket, I mean, there have been a lot of crazy things going on throughout the entire day. We ourselves got to spectate most of them. And I mean, there were a lot of things going down. I mean, if you just take a look at the first bracket, at the first portion, you see 100 Thieves made it over Version1. That's, to me, was probably one of the biggest surprises, obviously due to a standout performance from Asuna himself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's not just a standout performance, but one of the best performances we've ever had in VCT history. I mean, legitimately, the most amount of kills on a singular map is going to be held by Asuna with 48 kills. And congratulations to 100T even going up against Envy. That's going to be happening tomorrow alongside Sentinels versus XSET. But it was XSET's game and Sentinels' game that we end up getting this losers match, Sully. And really, both games ended up giving us a lot of entertainment. You know, it wasn't cut and dry. The XSET game ended up going 3 maps. The GENG game ended up going 3 maps, and all 3 maps were close. This is the type of stuff that you really like to see in a closed qualifier, Sully, especially in the case of Rise. They're a tier 2 team coming into this one, and honestly, not much to really talk about before this month, really. Yeah. These guys have been a team for a little bit. They've made roster moves here and there, but Rise have never been a blip on the VCT crosshair or the radar. What makes them a difference maker now, Sully?
I mean, it's honestly super hard to pinpoint because there's so many really good components. Superman has been a really big stepping stone, a really big upgrade, I'd say, for this Rise roster. Against Cloud9, he had a plus 14 record with like 47 kills or something absolutely absurd going up against them. So he's been a massive part of the success that Rise have had. And just in their recent best of 3 against XSET, he also dropped 40-something kills for a plus 4 KDA. So Superman, he's been off the radar for a little bit. We haven't seen him for quite some time since his Dignitas stint back when they were an organization / team in the Valorant space. So he's been a really big addition. Same thing with Derek, who joined the roster, I think, a couple of months ago. So Rise have got 2 really big additions and a lot of experience in the form of Neptune and Shanks as well, who comes from the former NRG lineup. So you've got 4 really major components alongside Poise, who himself is really, really close-knit, I'd say, with the core of this roster. So Rise, there's a lot of chemistry, and there's also a lot of fragging power.
And you know what's funny? It's because of this dynamic that we have with Rise is actually it's a little bit lesser known of a story. Kuki Koalas exists today because Rise dropped Ainge. Just so you know. It's just one of the things where Rise, they've had great players before, but they haven't been able to really get the right formula. This tournament might be it, Sully. But who's on the other side of the server? It's the team that you just spectated. It's none other than GENG. And again, Sully, GENG, these guys have certainly slowed down in the last couple of months. They had a great chance to really solidify themselves in like a top 5 in NA because of Masters #1, but since then they've been the ones to lose out their steam. They've made a lot of changes recently, especially with what would be comp, and also of course with their lineup with Nature joining in the roster. Now, Sully, GENG in the losers bracket, do they really have a chance to start off a long run here in losers?
Let's be real, of course they do. If you watched any part of that Sentinels game, there was so much fluidity in that GENG lineup. They were really bringing the heat to Sentinels, and the fact they were able to even take a map off of Sentinels, I think speaks volumes to the quality that GENG have brought in, how much value they're getting out of these comp changes. I think one of the more specific players that have made a big comp change is definitely going to be Sean. He swapped out onto that permanent sky basically for all 6 of these maps, so he's looking really solid. So GENG, if there's any team to make a run at the lower bracket, I'd put my bet at least on GENG.
Well, let's talk about Sean then. Sean, he is sitting pretty as one of the best players in this tournament thus far, statistics-wise, sitting up at just about a 250 ACS. But on the other side of the server, his battle 1v1 is going to be up against Neptune. Is that a fair matchup for Neptune, Sully?
I mean, I have to say it is because both of these guys have made pretty significant role switches. Neptune previously was playing like Cypher way back on Immortals. Now he's picked up the duels. He's getting crazy impact alongside Shanks. Keep in mind, Sean was a duelist not too recently ago, and both of these guys are playing very, very similar agent comps, right? Obviously, you have your operator for the side of GENG, that being Kusta. Sean has got to play a big role in supporting him on that Sky and kind of acting as like a second duelist on that Sky agent using those flashes. Same thing with Neptune. He's got to kind of play second fiddle to Shanks, who's playing on that Jet operator as well, but he's still playing crazy good and has really good entry impact.
Well, let's talk about the maps then, Sully, because they are ready to go. Let's lay out the battlegrounds for this best of 3, because these two teams, they haven't really, shown us too much in terms of their cards, in terms of a map pool, Sully, especially when we're talking about Rise. But we land here on Split and Icebox as the first two maps, Bind being our third. Is this more or less the direction that you saw it going, Sully?
I think it's interesting that Rise elect to pick Bind, or apologies, not Bind. I let Icebox kind of slip through. Obviously, they were the team that decided to ban Breeze. You kind of want to ban and pick to your strength. Split is definitely going to be one of those really, really strong maps. They beat Cloud9, who I've said in the past are honestly one of the best Split teams in North America. Way back when they 13-1 Sentinels in the Challenger Finals. I mean, they were looking really, really good. And the fact that Rise were able to best them in a best of 3, I think speaks volumes to the quality that they've got. Obviously, they just took an L to X set, but still, they are looking really, really solid on Split. Now, we go to Icebox. It's not a map that Rise have played all too often, but for GENG, it's an interesting map pick because from what we've seen so far, the map record isn't too good for them.
Yeah, again, the map pool does come down to that Split pick that I saw. GENG, they are perfect thus far on Split throughout at least the last 2 tournaments, but that is literally the extent of the Split that we've seen from GENG. There's not much before that. Rise, however, they've been grinding really Split in the last few months. 10-2, by the way, Sully, is their record. Folks, we're going to be jumping into map number 1, but not before a break. Folks, we'll see you in just a little bit with map number 1 between Rise and GENG.
Let's go.
And welcome on back. It is GENG facing off against Rise as we head into map number 1, it being Split. My name is Upmine, joined here by Sully, and let's kick it off with Agent Select.
Oh man, looking at these compositions, I've always been a big proponent of Viper on this map, and it's good to see GENG bringing it in. But the interesting thing is there are kind of a lot of trade-offs with both compositions. Obviously, we expect Sean to be playing that Sky, but for GENG, double controller with the Brimstone. Now that's probably to me going to be one of the most interesting picks. Kusa playing the Jet Operator, GMD kind of being that double dive composition. Same thing for Rise, Shanks on the Jet Op, Neptune playing that double dive character as well on the Raze. The biggest thing, I'd say the biggest difference between these two teams is going to be between the double controller and then Rise electing to take the Sage. There is so much value you can find out of a Sage wall, executing onto the B site, executing onto the A site, playing for those post plants. So keep your eyes out for Derek and how he's going to utilize that Sage wall to allow Rise to get into sight, but also keep an eye out for these executions and these holds from GENG. There is so much utility that they can utilize and dump onto the executions, and even dump just to slow down pushes when it comes to Rise trying to take sites over.
And again, Sully, you're saying the right words here. You're saying dump, dump, dump. That's almost literally what that defensive setup is all about, outside of the fact that they don't have a typical Sentinel like a Cypher or a KJ. But, you know, I think we can flow right past that. A lot of the characters for this GENG lineup, or excuse me, agents, are legitimately just based to hold off a very, very close choke point. So we'll see, Sully. GENG, of course, with that comp facing off against Rise's more neutral comp. Of course, they'll play it up with that Astra and the Sage as we head into finally round number 1. Rise currently stopping their way through the mid side in a bit of a B split.
Yeah, it looks like GENG are pretty aware of this execution, especially with the fact that Kusa so deep in towards A main. The focus is going to be back here towards the Heaven side, and Neptune's going to kick us off with a really nice first kill.
Oh, Nature's still trying to hold it back. There goes Poised, finally taking back the frag alongside Superman next to him. Now it's just going to be a battle. Back, of course, for this Heaven area. There's one person over towards mid. Shanks getting pressured out. That nade actually going to go outside. And GMD, of course, not going to expect this spot from Shanks. Light and easy one for him, as now it's Mikhail alongside Kusta. On a 2v5, the two are completely disconnected. One person over towards Heaven. Shanks still picking up the kill onto Mikhail. Could we make it a 3K? No, Neptune still going in. Kusta. Still another right play. This is just a little bit of a commiseration, at least for Rise, and that's finally going to be the round as they get it back. Sully, let's actually talk about kind of the context to this, because today has just been a wild day thus far. If there's ever a time for Rise to take kind of an upset here, I'm looking towards Rise specifically in this matchup.
Yeah, and the best thing is that Rise aren't doing like anything really crazy flashy, right? It's always, so far in their Cloud9 game on Split against Xset, it's always been like really simple stuff, and this round was extremely simple. They just do a really nice B split. They know that most likely GENG have the information that no one is towards the A side, so they're going to be stacking, fully prepared. Nature, I think, got caught off guard, thinking that maybe he could take a little bit more space back in towards B main, so it puts GENG here on their eco round. Rise are going to be looking to maximize as many guns, or keep as many guns as possible here, while also maybe building up those ult points. Get Derek to as many ult points as he can get for that revive, maybe get Shanks as well near completion for Bladestorm in the upcoming rounds. Same thing with probably Neptune, so a pretty simple round here, I'd say, for Rise, but GENG not really giving anything up early. They're still going to try and play the numbers advantage and pull some guns out of Rise's hands and make this costly.
There goes Boys over towards that mid side. Going to be able to get one, but it is a 5-man crossfire over in mid. It's going to have to come down to Neptune to potentially sweep things up a little bit. That ace site being taken immediately by Rise right as that mid take happens. So, yeah, is what it is. Rise, they end up playing a bit of a long game. GENG, of course, in that eco, stacked up over towards the mid side. No issues whatsoever. I know I got rambly a little bit earlier, too, but, you know, actually, to talk about today, Sully, like, today's been kind of lit, like, you know, like seeing Rise here, like I get it, GENG too, but both of them had incredible games going into this one, man. And right as this happens, by the way, Rise, yes, taking away the round. 2 players end up going down, so some reinvestments back. But yeah, I can't wait for more days like today, man. I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, the Viet squad repping us out here. You know, I'm on myself in Vietnamese, so, you know, seeing Rise do really, really good so far, it's honestly super sick. I honestly compare their, like, crazy... Okay, it's no pun intended, but their crazy rise over the last week to like the NRG style that we saw way back a couple months ago, how they kind of just rose through the ranks. If Rise can do the same thing, and honestly, it is a real possibility, it would be a very similar story to NRG. But here in this round, it's going to be a big one for Rise. It's basically their bonus round. Shakes is going to force up that Phantom. Poise is going to work with a Frenzy. So maximize the credits out of this round. GENG setting themselves up in a 2-3 split. The focus back towards mid. Well, Sean can use his util to get this information, as already we see a Trailblazer going out, and he gets a whole lot of info, even stunning Shakes. There is so much info that the mid players come in, and Kusa prepared for that frag. Is going to kick us off with a 4v5 in favor of GENG.
Okay, great play over towards Elevator, but we still got to focus over towards Heaven, which Sean has completely abandoned. Out goes his Hawk, but still going to get taken down, so still 3 players around that area. Sean getting ready for the take, and it's going to be Derek finally going out for the swing, and 3 players dropping at the same time. 1 player in the back of sight. Mikael can't get anything done. It's a trade back for Shanks, and now it's Nature and GMD posted up on a 2-on-3, making a 1-on-3. Shanks with a big one right onto GMD from on top of the wall. That's his 3rd of the round. Nature now 1v3. Shanks at 8 HP, finally going for the plant.
I could kill him.
There he goes. The snake bite from Nature. Line up on the wall. Well, not even just a lineup, just ponging it off the wall. And now poised. Last person remaining in a 1v1. Nature only 1 step away from completing a 1v3.
He's trying to fake a little bit of information. That actually could be really huge. So he fakes that he's gone down the zip and he's made that tap, but the camera's going to reveal nonetheless. 9 bullets left. Does he want to commit to a reload? It doesn't look like it. It comes down to the headshot, and Poise with a Vandal is going to take the 1 shot to the dome of Nature and find Rise a 3rd round. It's a costly round for Rise, but in the grand scheme of things, because it was their bonus, there's really no harm done there. GENG now going to be fully reset, have to work against Rise, who are now building up a massive economy here on the attacking side of Split.
Yeah, going into this next one still, it's going to be yet another light and easy, breezy one. Of course, GENG sticking out back on those pistols. Still thinking about Rise in that last round. It's yet another more or less simple split. I am sort of feeling GENG, at least, you know, that last retake. Nature certainly at least making it possible, but want to see a little bit more off of this defense early on. It's going to be a bit of a default. The first time for the Sully.
Yeah, and I think it's really Rise not wanting to overcompensate, knowing that this is an eco round. You want to play the anti-eco really safe, especially when you're in this financial situation. You've won your bonus. Maximize your credits. Don't lose too many people in this round, because you're going to be really set up for the next coming rounds, and honestly could be for the entirety of this half. So Kusa just around this corner. There's a poison orb, and Shanks is going to be good for the first. Now, what is the response? Because Nature, he is alone here. He's going to get, no matter what, the guaranteed Viper's Pit in the next round. But again, this is about keeping players alive here for Rise and about taking guns away out of Rise's hands for GENG.
Economic damage is what GENG is trying to go for. Neptune on a nice HP at 69. Goes down to 0. GMD comes up from behind, takes down Neptune. And now, GENG, they have surrounded the exits for Rise. They have to bounce on out, and it does look like GENG are mainly playing around this perimeter, but they're about to pop. You see a Sky Flash getting prepared over towards Heaven. That's about to go out. The wall getting taken down, but out goes the wide swing. 2 players in ramp go down in 1 fell swoop. The Sky in Heaven is down, and Poise with the last kill onto Mikael. So good cleanup from Rise. That was just GENG making 1 last attempt and almost literally getting timinged out. But again, good landing on their feet.
Yeah, really nice ending there as well. They know that the wall is being knifed behind them, so they're like, okay, we are ready for this burst. They're going to come from A-ramp. They're going to come from behind. Let's just take the fight A-ramp. Get those 2 kills. Be ready to pivot behind, and that's exactly what Rise do. GENG, back on their full buy, like I mentioned the last round. Nature's going to have that Viper's Pit, and he's going to use it really early towards A main, and it looks like Rise are trying to anticipate that. They might want to force him out. Shanks has got the knives. He's even got a judge, so he's definitely looking out to clear this angle. There goes the Viper's Pit, and really, Nature, if he goes down rotations, they're only going to be towards the Heaven side. It will be Rise who has full control of that site, but it's a slow start. They understand the pressure there, and it's not worth the risk to just charge head first, especially when you don't have the flashes necessary to clear out that kind of angle.
Good point. It's just this comp that ends up leaving them out to dry in a situation like this, but you know, it is still good that they haven't invested too much utility in actually trying to fight back for A main. They have abandoned that aspect, and now they go over back towards mid, where Kusta's was posted with that op. He ends up missing out a shot. Shank still pulling out a little bit of a smoke, still covering up that mid side. Now it's just going to be a fast take of mid. Full control is there. 50 seconds left in the round. Still, Rise. They still want to stay posted up towards that mid side. They still have one more target to aim on, at least over towards B Heaven. That's GMD with that first contact. Mikhail back in B main, can't get anything done, so he has to run for the hills. Now it's GMD around the corner, not going to be able to take down anything, so instead it's Rise with a free sight.
Look at that. Mikhail is just completely evacuated. He knows that if he holds this B-main position, this retake becomes a whole lot easier. Rise was so quick to burst, but look at this HP. Kusa's got a great flank as well. First kill goes to his pocket, back to a 4v4, but again, HP the most prevalent thing on the side of Rise, and that's what makes this such a big issue.
Still steady for Mikhail, but they know that he tried to abandon this position, and just like that, just a shoulder peek is gonna get that information. Watch out for the double pop in Heaven, right as Kusta's trying to go for a wide swing right in the middle of sight. Stim Beacon's not gonna be able to do anything, so instead now it's just Nature and Sean trying to go in, watching each other sixes, but it's Rise that end up blowing up the entire clock. It's 5-0 as the time is up for GENG. They can't buy in the next round either. Sully, it's just been shambles for these last 5 rounds for GENG.
Yeah, no question about that. It is a perfectly played post-plant round coming out from Rise. They know that there's a flank present, and I mean, if you look at the minimap, it's one of the most powerful post-plant situations. So many crossfires can be held. They isolate the fight on Mikhail back towards B main. They clear him out, and then the focus pivots back to the left side or in the right side of that pillar, where Rise, comboing with those crossfires from backside and on that pillar, and then from B main, are able to take that round. Nicely done. GENG, like you mentioned, no money here, no chance to buy, and it's Rise with a very, very solid opportunity to, again, extend that lead, and their economy, it is golden. That last round sets them up for, I'd say, the entirety of this half.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, really, Rise just off of that last dub alone, they're going to be able to pretty much win out this entire half unless GENG wins 6 rounds in a row, which is definitely possible.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll see. For now, GENG still sticking up with a couple of pistols. Could definitely make some noise. And there you go. Nature. With a couple of fireworks over in Heaven a week late. He ends up getting himself 2 big kills back with a Sheriff. He's still trying to make his way back over towards A, where he's actually spotted another player. Hopefully it's not a false alarm, which indeed it is. It's Derek with a spike in Heaven still. Kusta from below, but can't get anything done. And instead, off of that 1 kill, Derek is able to get a revive onto Poise. And now it's a 2-man disadvantage for GENG. Sean still holding his own, getting a kill onto Derek, but that was all the way back in sight. Shanks was coming back from main, ends up getting the flank. Nature wants to complete a 5-kill, not ace, but a 5K round, but Neptune's gonna shut it down. 6-0, Sully.
Got a little scary there when Nature gets those 2 kills, but he's not able to hold that position by himself. You saw the Viper will go up. He wants to try and deny any spike retrieval. Derek is very quick to ensure that no rifles can be picked up, throws the Sage Wall up, and after getting a couple kills, gets the revive back in. Rise, after a very, very solid start. Look at their economy on the left side. It is pretty much golden. Superman and Derek, I'd say, the only ones that are maybe a little bit cut short in terms of everyone else, but regardless, Rise are looking really solid, and it looks like we're gonna have a fast play. Cosmic Divide was just primed, I think, by Superman. So they're looking for something. Double Cage set up for a lurk play, and there's no operator here. Cages go up, Cosmic Divide goes out, but thankfully Kusa's good for the first, and denied out of the sky possibly, but from the grave, Neptune's gonna find the trade back. A 4v3, and effectively slowed them down.
Oh, but never mind. Superman just goes out essentially dry, and he takes down Kusta. So just like that, that control that was lost, Sully, has immediately been regained, and Rise are currently in a 3v3 against GENG, who are still behind the Cosmic Divide.
I'm not too sure what the post-plant idea here is from GENG. That spike, it's right out in front, and it is so much more difficult to hold from that position. I mean, look at these angles that they're taking. Really, the pivot comes down to Superman and GENG. 2 players approaching. There's a trip in their face, so they are perfectly primed, and Derek has got a really great angle on Sean coming out from Heaven.
Derek has to continue this position, though. Nobody's going to clear out elbow. It's only Derek, but Derek completely misses. But at the same exact time, it's GMD in the middle of sight with the satchels, with a showstopper, clearing up the middle of sight. That's a big combo from GENG, finishing up a very clean 3v3 into a 3v0 for their first round.
Yeah, and that little flash that Sean throws, I think, caught Poise blind in that little corner that he was holding right out from the left side of his tripwire. So They're very quick to take that fight. Very quick to clear out that close corner and kind of explode on the side. As soon as Neptune gets the kill, or apologies, not Neptune. As soon as GMD gets the kill, he's very quick to push out with the showstopper, clear out the rest of the site. And GENG, a very nice 3v3 retake with no casualties amassed. It's going to do wonders to their economy, but still Rise, very solid footing in terms of their economy. They're going to run a default this time around, and maybe a little bit different from GENG's. There seems to be a big contest towards this B main area.
Which is a little bit different. But are they actually trying to go for a peek? Yeah. I think it is just kind of dry pressure, but no, good spot. Isn't exactly something that GENG likes to go towards. And Rise have been, you know, quite explosive, at least in terms of the takes early on.
Ooh.
Actually, no. Actually, the opposite. Slower.
Yeah.
Kusta, however, getting a kill back onto Poise, but this early control of B main is actually big for GENG.
Yeah.
They're starting to spread around a little bit more. No focus over towards Heaven. Instead, it's just going to be this wrap back over towards A Heaven, where it's Nature that still has an eye on Elevator that's been taken.
And they know this is going to be a mid play again because Kusa finding that kill, pushing all the way deep into A main, and those two players in B main, I guess they were just waiting to see if Rise were going to try and contact and push into them, but Shanks, very, very attentive, is going to find Sean. Now that opens up a lot of avenues because you see a Sage Wall thrown up in mailroom. You don't expect a flank here from Shanks, and he's in a really good position to cut off rotations. And his teammates, they really have to do the rest here. 3 versus 2 essentially on this A site. Neptune's going to clear out the site. They know the spike will go down. There's only a handful of positions they can play. Kusaga, who got that kill towards A main, they should expect him to play there. But Nature, this is the position that I'm not sure they will be prepared for. Or will they be prepared for these two players? Again, Shanks, prime position to cut off rotation. This post play is set up perfectly for this Heaven play.
Again, right in the middle of sight, but it comes down to the post play and positions, which, again, Arise just have a whole lot of control over towards that back line. It is essentially just eyes on Heaven and ramp. And now Superman, currently with that first contact to ramp, isn't actually able to get the kill. It's GMD getting it back. He has to dash back to elbow. GMD still trying to take up Heaven, and he ends up getting one from beyond the grave after Neptune takes him down. There goes the big trade. There goes the defuse. Nature, he's going to be able to take it over. A ninja defuse from behind the smoke, right as Kusta tries to help him out. A big round back for GENG.
And it's GMD who does so much work clearing out that Heaven essentially solo. He's able to find 2 massive kills, traded back again beyond the grave with that nade himself onto Neptune. So huge props to GMD for winning that fight up in Heaven, setting his teammates up for that defuse. And it was Shanks and Superman who were in no position. Shanks, who again was on that very, very long lurk towards defender spawn. Superman kind of holding up himself in screens, no position to play the post plant. And GENG, they've got a second round. Gus, earlier you were saying 6 rounds in a row from GENG seems preposterous, but here they are with 2 very confident rounds so far.
Yeah, very confident ones, and this next one is going to be almost literally a backbreaker. That's if Rise end up losing. Their economy could be split into 2, going back into a reset. So GENG, certainly they found potentially the right formula in terms of positionings, but what is this early Viper's Pit, Sully? It's a Viper's Pit in the middle of Heaven.
Yeah, they know that they've lost full mid control. The Boomba goes up. They're anticipating, I imagine, some kind of play through the mid side, and that's why Nature pops his ultimate. But the main focus from Rise, it's not towards Heaven. It's just one player. And Superman, he's going to sell them, right? He's thrown 2 stars up. He's obviously already activated Grabwell, and now they come through the main side. Kusa struggling to get that kill, and there's the punish swing from Nature, but he's going to go down. And GENG crumbling at the seams on this A site, and it's Shanks, who was in the elevator position, had to do absolutely nothing, and now he maintains a crucial part of this A post plant.
And again, such an incredibly interesting idea, Sully, going for that Viper Spit in Heaven, but that is, again, just a denial of post-plane control in general, and is what it is, right? It's Rise, they found themselves in a very, very optimal scenario, right in the middle of sights, even getting up yet another one over towards Heaven, as that was the control that GENG was trying to deny in the first place. But now it's Sean, Mikhail, having to save. It's going to be a 7th round for Rise. That idea of 6 rounds in a row for GENG is going to go away. Indeed, Rise is going to win out this half. And we are back, of course, to square one, as both teams currently have very similar economies once again.
You know, it sucks, because I just said that you said it was preposterous for GENG to get 6 rounds, and I go, Well, Gen G just got 2 really competent rounds, and then Rise
It was
just
confident.
do
You know, I'll give it to
a
you.
really solid execution straight into it. So, I mean, looking back at these replays, you can see Kusa, I think if he's maybe able to muster that kill, I don't know if Nature would have been in a prime position, because you can just see the crazy util dump. 2 stars, one being a gravel, preventing his swing in the first place, then a Nebula coming out as well to prevent, or at least make the swing a lot more difficult, no matter what he's going to be swinging through his Viper's Pit, and then the slow orb. So I think it's just a great execution from Rise all around. Good time to call attack pause, I'd imagine, for the side of Gen G, as you need to decide how do you want to manage out the rest of this half. Your economy definitely not in the best position whatsoever, so sort it out now. Ensure that moving forward, you're going to have a strong buy approaching the end of this half, whereas Rise, on the other hand, that concern isn't too big of a worry.
Yeah. Technical timeout, or tactical timeout, coming out from Gen G. As we await yet another moment to head into the next round, Sully, at least thinking about that one again, it's such a... I'm still stuck in the Viper's Pit, because again, it's a great idea, and I keep going back to it. And I don't really need to. But Gen G, they lost out on early control of A main. They go back, they decide to use it. That, Sully, is a message to me that Gen G has full confidence in their retakes. It's not actually a bad sign. To me, that means that Gen G is on another level in terms of potentially motivation or confidence. But, you know, this is starting to get misplaced, because Rise now is just starting to turn up the pressure, just starting to get more aggressive, turning off the tempo for Gen G even.
All right, you get a little concerned because Gen G, this is typically their best side. 83% win rate, so on the defensive half of Split, so Rise definitely showing attacking prowess at the moment. They've done this a couple of handful of times where they show pressure towards one side of the map. Like, for example, when you were talking about that Nature Viper, it's in reaction to the fact that they expect players to come from Elevator, knowing that they've lost full control there. So, a preemptive Viper's Pit. In reality, Rise rerouted their attack back towards A main, and this time they're rerouting back towards B main after really Neptune, who's been kind of the key component for any entry, has shown presence towards this A side, and this B side isn't necessarily lacking, but it's definitely not got the strength you would have hoped for on this defense.
No, Sully, they're not conditioned whatsoever. It's going to be that Brimstone that has to run for the hills. And it was actually... What? An orbital strike comes in from beyond the grave. Mikhail takes down Derek, and Shawnee's here to try to help out. Sully... Rise, they essentially had a red carpet here on B. There were only 2 players playing up that crossfire, and Gen G were somehow able to equate that into a man advantage situation.
Yeah, now look at Shanks. Now that they've got the man advantage here, Gen G, Shanks is like, okay, I'm going to create my own advantage. Superman literally just needs to stay alive, breaking the ankles here of Kusta, and it's up to Shanks here now.
Here he comes. Shanks out from behind. It's a firing range in front of him, and he ends up getting 2. Superman with the last. Rise with an 8th round, shutting down Gen G.
There you go. That's what you love to see from Shanks. Gus, we were talking right before we hopped into this match, and we said, man, Shanks against XZ, he did not look like the Shanks we know and love. We know Shanks can pop off. In this series, in this first map, he is coming up clutch, and he is doing the business to Gen G at the moment. This flank perfectly telegraphed. The communication between Shanks and Superman in this situation has to be hectic. He's selling him, just stay alive, draw attention, I can get all of them with this flank, and he does exactly that. Gen G stunned as Rise take an 8th round now, and they're again gonna keep applying that pressure straight into B main.
It's another spark for a team that desperately wants a result. Sully, in goes Rise once again, over into B main, but this time it's a 3-man B site, and this time finally Rise, well, they're able to get that first pick. Right from behind the wall, it's gonna be Kusta, but one other person on top of the wall. Gotta watch out for verticality sometimes. Derek ends up getting the kill, and now it's only 3 players remaining for Gen G. The defense has broken down, but they have rotated very quickly. Out goes GMD with a nade right through the wall. That snake bite, same thing. That wall's about to go down. That cosmic divides more specifically. And finally, that leads into the battle. It's going to be Nature going in for one, John going in for another. And now it's Shanks back with another kill. Nature now in a 1v3. And it is pure chaos for Gen G that began to make it look possible, Sully.
It was chaos for both sides, let me tell you. Rise, Shanks again coming up huge. They played like 3 players towards that backside, and you just don't expect that 3rd player. With this swing, knowing that they're playing for the information, trying to punish immediately onto the sky, but finding Mikhail right in that position, you were basically catch everyone on the B side off guard. Now GENG were very quick for that rotation. They were able to play that snake bite to buy them a little bit extra time. But at the very end, Rise, 3 players on that backside. You never expected that third player to be there. And GENG, they are possibly staring at a 10-2 scoreline, given the fact that their buy is not going to be in the best shape. But look at GENG, all of this map control. How do Rise respond? I guess the best option is going to be have to take a little bit towards mid, given the fact, well, there are 3 stars there at the moment.
Yeah, 3 stars for Rise, and that does seem just about the lane that they want to take. Let's see how they end up. Ooh, what?
That boy flying.
Let's see how they end up going back off of this. Nice little dash there. A little bit longer of a dash than I actually would have thought. But, you know, Shakes is safe. The rest of Rise is safe. But, yes, over towards mid. It is GMD, at least with an eye. No smoke in that position, though.
The risk here, I'd say, for GENG is that you leave mailroom so exposed. Yes, you've got this B main control, but if you were to lose mailroom, the focus comes back to B main. And look at this, so much util dumped on in, and there they go. Sean blinding himself and kills galore, at least at the moment, for the side of Riser. Might find a second here, but Mikael, he's standing tall. Look at the nades going in. Look at the kills that are mounting for here for GENG. They've somehow recovered this, and it's down to a 3v2, left under the shoulders of Superman in the 1v3.
And Mikael can still keep going, right? He's got that stim beacon. Everyone's stimming up. Superman down 1 HP. How is he still alive? No, he's not alive. Mikael comes in swinging. Ring around the rosy. A 4K from him. And it came down to that 1B main push, right? 2 players on that front line. They immediately get that contact. The rotation comes in super quick. And Mikael, well, he has full control of this situation, Sully.
Yeah.
And with a bulldog, he's able to make it work.
Yeah, he's like, okay, Sean, I know what's going on. I hear the show start. I'm getting the heck out of here. I will delay. Your death will not be in vain. And he does everything to stave off the attack, allowing that nade to come in. There's rotations. GMD, who had full access to the mid side. No worries about anyone catching him off on a rotation. They had that control. Comes quickly into mailroom, tossing over a nade to disrupt that push and Rise. A little bit of a desperate attempt at the very end, but going into this next half, now on their defensive side, with a 9-3 scoreline, it's looking really solid at the moment for them.
It sure is, Sully. It sure is. Rise currently on their better streak at the moment, but GENG finally with a glimpse of hope. Of course, they need to actually carry that momentum for it to really matter, but nobody's breaking this wall. Kusta doesn't want to reveal that he is also here, but, well, he might just go down to Derek. Derek has a headshot position, and indeed, just the pixel is able to get him back. Yeah, they could have just broken down the wall, but they didn't want to rush anyways. They just want to contact over towards mid, and it's a take of A at the exact same time. Out goes the Viper wall, and out goes an immediate double satchel from GMD at the same time. So that's a very quick reactionary take of the A side.
Yeah, GMD's trying to put a little bit more pressure towards those back lines, make the retake a little bit more difficult. They're going to charge through the Viper's wall, knowing that the Boom is going to clear things out. Big man advantage here for Rise in this post-plant scenario, and GENG, it's all about creating flanks, and look at GMD.
Look at GMD. Still coming around, and, well, he still ends up going down in a heap. And, well, Sean's still in that 1v3. Everyone low on HP after that little interaction. But, yes, it still is going to be Rise landing on their feet, getting back that big round. Again, really like that take. I just think that, again, that second kill over towards mid shouldn't have happened. I feel like at least for a contact in sewer, that should be a little bit more safe, but that's hindsight. The take ended up working. They ended up getting the spike down. After that, it was anyone's game in a 3v5. Moving on into the next round, Sully. It's the SMGs that are out, and we're not seeing the defense make any drastic measures.
Okay, well, GENG are going to buy back. That's the big measure, and
yeah, huge buyback.
Gonna have to be, right? The reasoning for this buy is, well, it's 10-3. If you let this round slip through, you give Rise a chance at an 11th and then a bonus thereafter. So you want to contest as heavily as you can in this round.
12, that is.
You get a couple of kills here, or you got a couple of kills in the last round. Spike plan as well makes this buy a little bit more manageable. So see what they've got. Everyone's got light shields, but everyone as well has a Spectre. So it's like a little bit worser of a buy than what Rise has in terms of shields. But Shanks and Derek, a lovely crossbar being helped here. He's going to cheat out from the flash, and he's ready to support his teammate. Derek is able to fall away, and he's even got this wall to support him as well. So it's not too big of a worry. Can easily back away just like he does here. And currently GENG looking for that B split, but 2 players lined up in mailroom. It's a pretty strong defensive hold at the moment coming out from Rise.
Again, it's the spike that's going to be the biggest purveyor, and potentially how Superman can even hold back the initial contact from B main. think he has 2 stars posted up right in front. Either that or just a singular star posted up in front of B main. I feel like this info play from Sean, maybe throwing off a bit of a contact over towards A, and indeed it is. One of the pillars of defense of Heaven ends up going out away, but Sully, in comes the actual take. It's B-Man getting blown wide open. Superman still trying to hold it down, but he's only able to get one with that SMG, and out goes the rest of GENG. The site is theirs.
Very, very quick take. Great use of utility to isolate the players in that corner. Right back towards on the Raptors and Shanks. He's trying to cheat into it. He's actually created an opportunity, but there's one player on his flank. I don't know if Poise has recognized this threat just yet. He's got to at least win the first 1v1. The smoke is going to buy him a little bit extra time. 10 seconds left on the clock. He cannot die here. And he just isn't ready for it. Sean raining bullets from atop Heaven. GENG find their 4th round, and in their force buy, they save off possibly what could have been an 11th or possibly 12th round from Rise on their bonus.
Now, with just about 20 seconds left, too, you saw the 2 players rapidly trying to communicate with each other, and they were also going to go for a 2-man swing, Sully. So they even had a trade set up at the very end of that very, very chaotic situation. So overall, a dub for GENG. They're going to continue on their route, and like you said, just staying away from that reset is all they needed. Now, of course, just in this next round, they need to do what Rise ended up succeeding in the last half. Having a good bonus. Need to maintain the cash, need to maintain the SMGs. Hopefully nobody dies, and hopefully not everyone gets flashed. Everyone got flashed there. Kind of a funny little moment. Still most of Rise sitting up over towards that mid side, Sully.
GMD is well prepared to clear with the Boomba, but it looks like Rise are going to try and cheat through, catch them with their pants down, but nope. Buckles are out, and belts are ready. GENG with a 5th round. Very nice and easy. I think that flash kind of sold the fact that they were towards the mid-side and eco round. You normally want to play that numbers advantage, and so getting that flash play, they were very much prepared for the peek out towards mid. Sean right behind them, ready for the spray just in case. So Rise, you get that round over with. They're moving on to their full buy here. GENG going to keep the guns, I imagine, that they have for this bonus, but it's a very high risk, high reward situation. Yes, if you win this round, your economy's set in stone, but you're going to have the lesser guns against obviously a full buy coming out from Rise, where they possibly could find 11, and thereafter they would only need 2 rounds. So risky game for GENG, but with these Spectres, the focus is towards this left side of the map, and it looks like already very quickly they've immediately taken B main control with a long response by Rise to try and get some map control back. It's GENG who are looking for a response here.
And very quick thing, Sully, that I'm starting to realize about the Viper Wall from Nature. He is very much against throwing it out earlier on in the round. And seeing Nature actually pulling this up over in B early on, don't really know if it's going to be a tell that a B main take is happening, but that's usually what happened every round thus far. The Viper Wall goes up either later on in the round or now in this case early. And potentially, again, that B site still being the target. Mid side still being pressured out. 2 players over towards mail room. You do have one very, very close. Oh, GMD about to pop. And one person over in the B site decides to take it all. Oh my, the gravity wall. They could have made everything, but look at the damage done. Superman ends up getting 2 off the cleanup. Shanks coming in as a hero, watching his teammates is 6. And now Nature is the last person left in a 1v3.
And this is the risk you took if you were GENG to go with these lesser guns. Obviously, it comes down to that single play that Derek is able to make, combined with the gravel, with that Judge putting on a whole lot of damage, and having Superman immediately there to back him up for this swing. Huge play coming out from the 2 of them, and GENG, with just Nature left, he's got a Phantom picked up from the body of Neptune in the middle of the site, but he is alone, and unfortunately he will find himself a resting spot beneath the heavens. 11-5 for Rise. Looking really good at the moment. 2 more rounds to go. Obviously, GENG, that was just their bonus. The buy is going to be back in their favor. Full rifles for both sides. And moving forward, that's going to be the biggest factor. Can you win on your rifle rounds? We'll see in this next one.
A huge question to be answered as we look back at least on the replay from that round. Again, I do like the fact that Rise is not really changing up their defense all too much, Sully, but this one is certainly a change of pace. 3 players over towards that A side. They have taken away the first contact of Superman in the middle of B, and instead going for a 3-2 format.
Yeah, they're playing almost a full retake on B. They really only have 2 stars there to at least try and delay and allow rotations. But otherwise, Rise are trying to play the retake. The wall goes up to try and delay. Again, we see Derek here once more with his infamous Judge that we saw in the last round. We'll see if we can find again the same impact in this position. But look at the rotations that Rise have already called in. Shanks is watching A main, so he knows that that area is essentially clear. Neptune's now leaning back in towards Heaven, trying to support teammates there, but Gen G, they have their sight set on the B bomb site, and while we started with a 3-player stack on the A side, Gus, it's transitioned back here towards B, and it gets a little bit more difficult now.
I've got your trail.
Yeah, the structure from the beginning of the round has completely changed, and the Seekers could certainly help out a little bit. That Sage should have actually killed one of the Seekers instead of just giving out that last piece of information over towards the back of site, but it is what it is. In comes Superman. It's going to be the first contact. He's going to be able to get one. Out goes the Pepper's and Superman continues to spray. The Phantom works for 3. GMD still taking one back on top of Neptune. Out goes the Flying Judge from heaven. Shanks comes in, flying already all the way from the A site, and he's already dropped. He drops right into the crosshair of 2 players crossed up. GMD with a 4K, and there goes Gen G with yet another round to stop Rise from building up any steam.
Yeah, Neptune had a very rough spray there. If he's able to win that fight as soon as he dropped out of heaven, he definitely could have won the entire round. Superman did everything he could, activates a gravel in the front of B main to try and delay this push, but that's the fight, and this, I'd honestly say a little bit careless from Derek. I think he's trying to jump down and maybe grab the Phantom that his teammate dropped down, but risky play from him, and it doesn't pan out the way that we're hoping. Again, they have that 5-round gap, so it's a little bit of leeway for them. You cannot be giving away rounds like that. You can especially cannot be making plays like that expecting crazy results. Now, the knives out for Shanks. The wall going up towards A main. Shouldn't expect a push here from Shanks, but now with the updraft going in, they certainly will, and Sean is going to be sure not to give him a free frag and essentially not give him a free gun.
And watch that cheeky little Judge again. It's yet another round where this time it's actually Superman with a Judge. Barely a pick, but no way! Kusta coming out, and the Judge can't do anything as Kusta dashes past, and he's out of range. Oh, it's a disaster, Sully, but again, that was really the only hope that they had for kills other than a boom bot, apparently.
Yeah, I think Superman was really hoping to use that gravel. He was really hoping to use the gravel towards B main.
Yeah.
But as soon as the contact goes in towards heaven, activates the gravel. That's more of a testament to Gen G's ability to coordinate the sight hits. He spins around, activates the gravel at the exact same moment when there's contact in towards male. The push out comes from B main. So Rise, it is Derek. I don't think he's going to be attempting this one. Save the revive for the next round again, unless you can maybe get into a 1 versus 1, but they're playing such great post-plant positions. He's just going to look for exits. Any damage to Gen G's economy is going to be super valuable, so don't blame him for trying. He could maybe lock at least one player, especially Kusta in this backside into the middle of site. So there are casualties that could be had here for Gen G if they're not cautious enough about it.
Oh, Kusta spotting the foot of Derek, but unfortunately not going to be able to get a kill. That would have actually been pretty decent, at least in terms of economic damage, but you know, I don't really think economic damage is really in effect anymore, Sully. There's realistically only 2 rounds left, but yeah, look at the timing from earlier. Looks away at the perfectly wrong moment. Well, is what it is. It's a shambles moment that happened essentially in the last 3 rounds. Don't really think that the Judge has gotten too much mileage other than, I think, the three people that we spotted in mid, but thank gosh, Sully. The Judge is gone. The rifles are back. And now it's a little bit more aggressive of a setup from Gen G. You have a little bit of util from nature over towards B, while the rest of Gen G stays towards A.
Yeah, but Gen G, they think that they've maybe sold a pretty good fake with that early Viper util, but in reality, these 2 players pushed up into B main, and now Derek cheating through the Viper wall a little bit. It's definitely causing a lot of issues. Now, that Trailblazer going through B main might be a tell that the work back is towards the mid side, but the fact that there's nobody in B main kind of sets up the fact that that's just a fake. If you want to work into the B site, typically Gen G have been doing those B splits.
Yeah.
And with GMD being the solo lurk at the moment, they should be ready for the focus coming back in towards this A side, and it looks like they are prepared. Gravel goes out, but again, I don't know if Rise have taken this bait. Maybe a little bit too much, actually.
Yeah, potentially so. Again, over towards this A site, there's not going to be too much of a punish in terms of this util. It's just going to have to come down on how Poise can end up taking this because of the pings. Out goes 1 kill. No, it's actually a TK coming out. Okay, that's fine, though. Kusta was already down in terms of HP. Poise is still going to get another kill right through the smoke. That smoke tripwire combo alongside the camps has been so huge. And Gen G, they continue to get frags. That's GMD coming up from behind, getting 2 more. Shanks coming up from behind and getting 3. Taking down GMD at the very end of things, and it was Shanks who was already preparing for a heaven pop this entire time that comes up so clutch right when Poised essentially needs him.
Yeah, Poise there, that utility, that Cypher util does so good in delaying the push from GENG. He gets a phenomenal tag onto Kusa, slowing him down with that second tripwire. And GENG, they wanted to try and flush out that elbow position with the orbital strike. Unfortunately, catching Kusa in the crossfire. Rise now on map point here in map number 1. GENG with a little bit more of a petri dish of a buy, not necessarily the worst buy, but it's not going to be the best economic situation, as already they're working with what they've got. Goose has got to settle with the knives, and it's Rise who very early on take full control of B-Man. They've even thrown the wall up here.
Potentially. Oh, they have. They have pulled up the wall in B-Main. I didn't even see it. It's like, it's very faded on my screen. Out goes 2 kills. There goes Nature and Kusta, both getting very quick kills, and that's already a little bit of a defense of the site. Has to be Neptune to try to get a kill onto Kusta, though, so that's at least one tip back for him. Neptune still has to watch out for the cross here on site. Great timing off that smoke. So that's just going to allow a whole lot more time, a whole lot more space for GENG to try to stretch out here on the B site. Where on earth? Wait, Sean just pulled out that hound all the way from heaven, chased him down into main. That is kind of cool, though. However, it does look like Rise is either looking for exits or looking to save. Maybe both.
I think certainly looking for exits here, knowing that the economic situation for GENG not going to be optimal whatsoever. Shanks holding himself back towards me. This has been the exit that Rise of GENG took in I think the last round, where it was Derek in that 1v3. So Shanks just holding up, waiting for someone to approach him. Now, I don't know if GENG are aware to this fact. They could exit again anywhere. They could go through spawn, through heaven, wherever they please, but focus back into B main. Shanks, again, anticipating this kind of play. There are 3 players in this vicinity, but it doesn't look like Shanks is willing to take this fight. He doesn't want to lose the gun himself. So GENG, they will find an 8th round, 4 players staying alive. Great addition to this next round, and will stabilize their economy for a little bit longer, where I think the concern now maybe leans a little back to the Rise side, but they kept 3 players alive, so we should still have a full buy going into this round. Rise, 4 more chances to close it this first map out in regulation, but GENG are definitely hot on their heels at the moment with these executions.
The fact that that round was, actually possible for them, considering the main sake.
Here.
Or at least the amount of control that they actually had, was kind of shocking to me almost. But Rise, again, still yet another opportunity to at least continue what is their current streak of economy, because they're actually about to get reset off of this round. Let's see what happens, though. In comes a very, very quick Viper take right in the middle of sight. Orb alongside wall, but there's one person in the middle of sight that they haven't spotted yet, and it's actually Neptune bouncing in a nade right into the middle of sight, taking down Kusta. Poise is still right behind the wall.
Coming down.
Nature alongside Mikhail there, too. Mikhail gets the kill. Multiple kills going back and forth, but it leaves in a 2-on-3. It's Derek Shanks and Superman trying to hold this one on back, making a 4th player. Poise joining the party. Sean now in a 1v3, and this could just be it. 10 more HP for the legend, and a 13th round for Rise, as they end up taking down GENG, and Rise are now only 1 more map away from pulling off a huge upset. Folks, we'll talk about map number 1 in just a little bit.
Your purchase could be free when you use your Credit Karma Visa debit card. Free groceries, free gas, or even a free TV. It's called Instant Karma, and you can only win it from Credit Karma Money. Open your account for free in the Credit Karma app. Credit Karma Money. Progress starts here.
Change of range.